Chapter 123. When Chu Chaoyun saw the blazing lights soaring into the sky, he stopped. After a pause, he smiled gently. What a powerful martial technique. Unfortunately, it is useless after we go up. Beside the Ink River, Xiaochen slowly woke up. When he opened his eyes, he saw the worried expressions of Su Xiaoxiao and Kim Taeho. His heart warmed slightly as he smiled faintly. Thank you. Su Xiaoxiao said, are you alright? Earlier, you suddenly fell down and startled us. Kim Taeho's eyes lit up as he ran over. He smiled and said, Brother Xiao, I saw you carving that golden lion horn earlier. Can this secret treasure of yours be mass-produced? This fatso was really greedy for money. Xiaochen got up and ignored him. He checked his body and discovered that there were no major problems. It was just that he had exhausted too much essence. He asked, how long have I been unconscious? Did that group of people chase after us? Su Xiaoxiao replied, it has been about 2 hours. The noble clans did not chase after us. De Bao saw them heading downstream and was discussing whether to follow them or not. Xiaochen stretched his legs and felt that there were no problems with his body. He said indifferently, follow them. The golden coffin of the sage has not been found yet. If we do not go, we will have made this trip for nothing. Fatso laughed loudly. I knew that Brother Xiao would follow them. Actually, I already scouted the path. They followed the river downstream. Finally, they crossed the river and reached a stone platform a kilometer tall. I also saw that brat Chu Chaoyun. He was acting sneakily by himself. He was not with those people. On the stone platform a kilometer tall, Xiaochen frowned slightly. He thought to himself, if Fatso did not see wrong, that was definitely a materialization of the sage. Otherwise, such a situation would not occur. Furthermore, there was Chu Chaoyun. From the moment he appeared, he gave off an unfathomable feeling. The others came with great fanfare. However, he came alone. Xiaochen shook his head and collected his thoughts. Let's go. If we don't leave now, it will really be too late. The group quickly moved forward and soon arrived at the place where the various clans had killed the bat-like demonic beasts. Looking at the corpses of the demonic beasts, Xiaochen stopped. The lunar shadow saber slowly picked up the corpse of a demonic beast. Xiaochen thought for a while and walked to the riverside. When he saw the black qi on the surface of the river, he was astonished. The river was actually filled with dense demonic qi. How could there be so much demonic qi gathering in the sage's ruins? Was this the sage's ruins or the demon's ruins? Xiaochen thought suspiciously. He felt that there was something wrong with the appearance of the sage's ruins. Mr. Xiao, what are you thinking about? Su Xiaoxiao saw Xiaochen looking at the river without saying anything, so she asked curiously. Xiaochen came back to his senses and smiled faintly. It's fine. Let's go. The three of them continued forward. They all used their movement techniques and ran quickly along the riverside. What astonished Xiaochen was that Fatso was using some unknown movement technique. His plump body was actually not slower than Xiaochen's. Seeing Xiaochen looking at him in astonishment, Fatso opened his folding fan and smiled proudly. Xiaochen could not bear to see Fatso being cocky, so he quickly turned his face away. We have arrived. The stone platform is on the other side of the river. Once we cross the river, we will fall. When they reached the stone wall, Fatso stopped. He pointed to a stone platform on the other side and said, they should have already gone up. Xiaochen looked at the surface of the river filled with demonic qi and said, we cannot go over directly. This black qi is all demonic qi. If we touch it, we might be demonized. After he spoke, he took out a jade bottle from the universe ring. Like the universe ring, this jade bottle was a very low-level space treasure. The space inside was very large, but it could only hold liquids and gases. Xiaochen had made it when he was bored when he came to Whitewater City. He pointed the jade bottle at the surface of the river. Under the astonished gazes of Kim Taeho and Su Xiaoxiao, the black river began to churn. The demonic qi on the surface of the Black River was all absorbed. After a long time, a surface without demonic qi appeared on the surface of the Black River. Xiaochen put away the jade bottle and quickly said, "Let's go over." He used the gravity spell and flew over. Fatso and Su Xiaoxiao stepped on the surface of the water and flew to the other side. After they reached the shore, Fatso immediately came over and smiled at Xiaochen. He said, "Brother Xiao, what was that? Can I take a look at it?" Xiaochen did not reject him. This jade bottle was not a treasure and its uses were limited. It was just something he made when he was bored. The workmanship could even be said to be very crude. It was fine to let Fatso take a look. Fatso held it in his hand and looked at it fondly. After a while, he handed it over and asked, "Why do I feel that you made this bottle yourself? Furthermore, it is a little crude." Xiaochen was startled. This Fatso's eyes were very sharp. He did not answer him and directly walked towards the stone platform. He could already feel the righteous qi coming from the stone platform. Fatso suddenly said when he was about to reach the stone platform. It seemed like there were people sitting cross-legged and meditating. Xiaochen felt that something was wrong. Those people sitting cross-legged did not seem to be angry. The sound of their footsteps was already very loud. However, this group of people did not react at all. Something is wrong. That group of people seems to be dead. After Xiaochen said that, he walked over. Skeletons were scattered all over the ground. As for those people sitting cross-legged, their eyes were closed as though they were asleep. Fatso gently pushed them and they immediately fell to the ground. Kim Taeho's expression suddenly turned serious. He looked at the pile of skeletons and then at the cultivators of the noble clans. He frowned and said, "These cultivators just died. Furthermore, the way they died is very strange. Aside from the corpses of the noble clans, the Guy Marquis' golden guards had all died mysteriously. They fell to the ground with a gentle touch." Fatso suddenly laughed loudly. Before Xiaochen could react, he saw Fatso move like a whirlwind, stripping all the Guy Marquis' golden guards. Then, he took out the earth-ranked battle armor. Soon, Fatso had taken out more than 100 sets of battle armor. Fatso took out one and looked at it carefully. Suddenly, his expression changed. He said, "Why do these battle armors no longer have any spirituality? How can this be?" After Xiaochen spoke, he casually took out a saber and chopped at the battle armor. A small crack immediately appeared on the golden battle armor before it shattered. Su Xiaoxiao revealed an astonished expression. She picked up a piece of golden battle armor and looked at it carefully. After a while, she said, "The moonstone in this battle armor seems to have been absorbed by something." When Xiaochen and Su Xiaoxiao heard this, they were astonished. They had never heard of such a thing before. The moonstone was a mysterious stone. It contained natural daos. How could it be absorbed completely? Xiaochen looked at the stone platform and did his best to extend his spiritual sense. However, he could not extend it. In this small world, it was difficult for his spiritual sense to leave his body. Fatso muttered, "Never mind. Let's go up. If we do not go up, we will never know the reason." Although Xiaochen felt that something was wrong, he could not extend his spiritual sense out. He could not find anything. He could only agree to Fatso's suggestion. The three of them stepped onto the stone platform. Who? The instant the three of them stepped onto the stone platform, the blue dragon martial spirit in Xiaochen's body, the golden folding fan in Fatso's hand, and the zither in Su Xiaoxiao's hand suddenly emitted an aura. After that, the three auras merged together and formed a barrier that was neither too big nor too small, surrounding the three of them. Su Xiaoxiao said in astonishment, "This is the self-protection of the holy weapon. There must be something horrifying under this stone platform. Otherwise, the holy weapon would not automatically protect itself." Xiaochen looked at the seemingly endless flight of steps. Suddenly, an indescribable chill arose in his heart. The three of them did not say anything and continued forward. Since they had already reached this step, there was no way they could retreat. After climbing 100 steps, densely packed skeletons started to appear on the stone steps. When everyone stepped on the skeletons, they gave off a caw-caw sound, causing their scalps to go numb. Rumble. The lunar shadow saber in the universe ring suddenly trembled. Xiao Chen was astonished. He stopped and looked around. A rusty broken sword appeared in his vision. This is another subdivine weapon of the battle sage origin? Xiao Chen picked up the broken sword and thought doubtfully. He could not see anything strange about the broken sword. The lunar shadow saber in the universe ring trembled even more intensely. It was like it was about to fly out of the ring. Xiao Chen had never encountered such a situation before. Although he did not understand what was going on, this broken sword was definitely related to the Thunderwood sword. Xiao Chen placed the broken sword into the universe ring and continued forward. Stepping on the piles of bones, the three of them arrived at Hua Tianyu's headless corpse. Fatso found the words written on the ground and searched Hua Tianyu's body. Damn it, there is nothing left. A martial sage is actually so poor, Fatso cursed in a low voice. Su Xiaoxiao looked at the finger on Hua Tianyu's right hand. There was an obvious ring mark on the index finger. She said indifferently, "This should be a spatial ring. Someone just took it away." Xiao Chen ignored Fatso's words. He looked carefully at the wound on Hua Tianyu's neck. This was a sword wound. Hua Tianyu's head had been chopped off in one move. How could a martial sage be killed in one move? Who is so powerful, killing martial sages like they are dogs? Could it be the Thunder King? Xiao Chen thought suspiciously. Suddenly, he thought of a problem. Fatso, look around and see if his head is here. Kim Taeho recovered his wits and looked at the headless corpse. He felt it was strange as well. He started to look around with Xiao Chen. However, after searching for a long time, they could not find a single skull. Strange, where did the head go? Kim Taeho said suspiciously. In front of the stone platform, Ji Changkong and the others divided up the treasures on the martial sage's body. After that, they sat down cross-legged and held an inferior-grade spirit stone in their hands. They quickly recovered their essence. Along the way, not only did they meet the seniors of the various noble clans, they even saw the corpse of the Ying clan's emperor. They were all martial sages from 1,000 years ago, people of the same generation. Ji Changkong was the first to recover. He tossed away the dull spirit stone in his hand and watched as they approached the peak of the stone platform. However, he did not feel any excitement in his heart. Instead, a shadow loomed over his heart. Chapter 124. Not long later, the people of the noble clans all stood up. The higher they went, the more essence was exhausted. If it were not for the fact that they had enough spirit stones, they would not have been able to reach this point. Let's go, there are still 500 more steps. Let's do our best to get up in one breath. Ji Changkong said indifferently. They could already see the top of the stone platform from where they were. After he finished speaking, he still took the lead and walked forward. His pair of sharp eyes looked straight ahead, and there were countless stars evolving in his eyes. With every step he took, a star would be destroyed, and a moment later, more stars would be born. If someone who understood the Ji clan's martial techniques were here, they would be astonished. Under such circumstances, Ji Changkong was still cultivating the astral martial spirit. Everyone slowly walked up the stone steps. The further they went, the closer they were to the stone platform. The pressure they had to endure increased by several-fold. It was like there was a formless barrier blocking them. Bang! One of the Ji clan's martial saints stepped on the stone steps with one foot. Before his other foot touched the ground, there was a loud explosion and his body turned into dust. Ji Changkong did not turn his head back. His expression did not change at all. He held an inferior-grade spirit stone in his hand and continued to walk forward. The closer they got to the stone platform, the more horrifying the pressure they had to endure. It was like a small mountain was pressing on their shoulders. The instant their feet touched the ground, the stone steps became like a bottomless pit. It sucked away a large portion of the spiritual energy in their bodies. Bang! 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 A few more martial saints of the various clans could not withstand the pressure and exploded. Immediately, everyone was in a state of panic and fear. They were afraid that they would be the next to die. Sage, stop! A towering stone stele appeared in front of Ji Changkong. There were 4 ancient words written on the stone stele. A boundless pressure was emitted from the stone stele. Ji Changkong laughed coldly. The sword in his hand danced and a few sword chi struck the stone stele. Cracks appeared on the stone stele before it shattered into countless pieces. Ji Changkong looked up at the stone platform in front. There were only 10 steps left. He shouted and a human figure came out of his body. Ji Changkong stood on the stone steps in front of him. Then, another human figure came out of the crowd and headed for an even higher stone step. After repeating this 10 times, Ji Changkong finally reached the peak of the stone platform. Ji Changkong took a deep breath. The 9 clones behind him merged into his body like illusions. At the peak of the stone platform was a wide platform, and in the center of the platform was a golden sacred coffin. A faint righteous chi spread out from the coffin. Ji Changkong could not help but reveal a faint smile. After spending countless schemes and narrowly escaping death, he finally arrived here. The golden coffin was as tall as a person. Ji Changkong slowly walked over with relaxed steps. Just at this moment, a figure slowly walked out from the other side of the coffin, startling Ji Changkong and forcing him to take a few steps back. "Brother Changkong, it has been a long time." Chu Chaoyun walked out from behind the coffin and smiled at Ji Changkong in a carefree manner. Ji Changkong was expressionless, his expression incomparably grave. He was incomparably shocked in his heart. He had not expected to meet Chu Chaoyun here. This was too surprising. Bang! 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 Hua Yunfei, Duanmuking, and the Guy Marquis led a few martial saints over. When they saw Chu Chaoyun, they were astonished in their hearts. Chu Chaoyun said indifferently, "Don't look at me like that. I just arrived as well. This golden coffin has not been opened yet." After he spoke, he gestured for Ji Changkong to make himself at home and retreated. Ji Changkong gave Duanmuking and the other 2 a look. The 3 of them understood tacitly and walked over to Chu Chaoyun, blocking him outside. Chu Chaoyun smiled gently and ignored them. Boom! Ji Changkong ferociously smashed his palm on the lid of the golden coffin. A melodious sound rang out, and the sound waves spread in all directions. Everyone felt their eardrums go numb. A corner of the coffin lid was lifted. Ji Changkong looked at his palm in astonishment. After that, he said to the people beside him, "Take a look and see if you can still use your essence." When the others heard this, they were stunned. They quickly tried it out. In the end, they discovered that the martial spirit in their dantian seemed to be sealed. No matter how they circulated it, they could not summon out their martial spirit. "What's going on?" everyone said in astonishment. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly and parted the crowd. He said, "Let's take a look at what is in this coffin first." When everyone heard this, they put down the doubts in their hearts and walked over to the coffin. After so many hardships, everyone was curious as to which sage was lying in the coffin. Within the golden coffin, there was an imposing man wearing purple emperor's robes. He lay quietly on the coffin. His hands were placed on his chest, holding a sword. Ji Changkong said in astonishment, "Isn't this the last emperor of the Tianwu dynasty? Why is he lying here?" The Guy Marquis and the others were astonished. Along the way, everything indicated that this was the remnant of a sage. The martial techniques obtained from the black coffins in the underground palace proved this. Furthermore, there were countless murals on the walls. They were all in the style of the ancient era. 10,000 years after the end of the ancient era, the Tianwu dynasty slowly rose up. This last emperor of the Tianwu dynasty had only passed away a few thousand years ago. How could he be related to the sage from 20,000 years ago? Pu Ci. The man in purple robes in the sage coffin suddenly opened his eyes. A purple light appeared in his eyes. A martial saint who was looking at him was burned to ashes before he could react. The Tianwu Emperor came back to life? Is this the legendary heavenly flame? All the cultivators retreated. They were all incomparably horrified. Although the Tianwu dynasty had been destroyed for thousands of years, no one dared to forget its legends. Back then, the first Tianwu emperor used his shocking strength to unify the entire Tianwu continent. He established the Tianwu nation, which lasted for 10,000 years, the Emperor Wu nation. Such a feat could be said to be unprecedented in the entire continent. He was without a doubt the first person since ancient times. Legend said that he borrowed the heavenly flame from the outside world. When the heavenly flame burned at full power, the entire continent would melt. He was the king of flames, no one could block him. After that, every generation of emperor would possess the strength of a great emperor. Even the last Tianwu emperor lying here had the strength of a great emperor. If he really woke up, no one would be able to escape. Chu Chaoyun revealed a contemplative expression. He slowly walked to the front and looked at the purple emperor in the coffin. He said, "There is no need to worry. It is just a strand of qi. Just don't look at his eyes." Everyone thought for a while and agreed. In this world, no one could escape death. Even the Tianwu emperor died many years ago. Aside from the legendary martial gods, no one could escape death. When they looked at the coffin on the platform again, everyone's eyes lit up. Although they did not know where the sage's body was, the value of the Tianwu emperor's body was definitely no less than that of the ancient sages. Just the heavenly flame contained in his body was enough to make people go crazy over it. This was because the might of the heavenly flame was too great. Before the first Tianwu emperor died, he split the heavenly flame into 10 parts, leaving only a tenth for his descendants. However, even though it was only a tenth, the might of the heavenly flame was still very horrifying. It could easily split mountains and burn everything to desolation. When everyone arrived before the coffin, they did not dare to make any movements. Ji Changkong stretched out his hand and slowly closed the eyes of this person. The emperor in the coffin closed his eyes again. Who? Hua Yunfei stretched out his hand and took out the Tianwu emperor's sword. He said in pleasant surprise, "Sky-splitting sword. This is a holy weapon, a complete holy weapon." Bang! That holy weapon suddenly struggled free from Hua Yunfei's hands and flew towards the Guy Marquis. Hua Yunfei's expression changed. He quickly stretched out his hand, wanting to grab it back. However, the holy weapon was flying too fast, he was unable to catch it. The Guy Marquis gently stretched out his hand and caught the holy weapon suspiciously. He did not understand why the holy weapon flew into his hands. Furthermore, he used a spear and was not used to using a sword. Hua Yunfei quickly walked to the front and stretched out his hand to snatch it back. The Guy Marquis' expression froze. He said in a cold voice, "Hua Yunfei, what are you trying to do?" Hua Yunfei looked at the holy weapon in the Guy Marquis' hand and said angrily, "What am I trying to do? Return my holy weapon to me." The Guy Marquis smiled coldly, "The holy weapon chooses its own master. It is clear that you are not worthy of this holy weapon. Stop pestering me endlessly. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit." Hua Yunfei had long disliked the Guy Marquis. Earlier, when the Guy Marquis stopped him from killing Shao Qin, Hua Yunfei had always remembered it. Now that he found this excuse and the Guy Marquis' golden-armored warriors were not around, Hua Yunfei led the 4 martial saints behind him and made his move without hesitation. Essence could not be used on the platform. Both sides could only rely on the strength of their physical bodies and their combat techniques. Although the Guy Marquis was alone, he spent most of his time on the battlefield. His combat experience was much richer than the 5 of them. For a moment, Hua Yunfei and the others were unable to do anything to the Guy Marquis. Ji Changkong glanced at the battle behind him and stopped watching. He looked at Chu Chaoyun and said indifferently, "Brother Chaoyun, if we can extract the heavenly flame of the heavenly emperor, how about we split it equally?" Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly. He looked at Ji Changkong and said, do I have a reason to reject? After the two of them finished their discussion, they started to discuss how to extract the heavenly flame from the Tianwu Emperor's body. After the heavenly flame was completely absorbed, it would be hidden in every inch of its owner's skin. It would be very difficult to extract it. It was basically impossible. The most direct way to extract the heavenly flame was to refine the corpse of the Tianwu Emperor. After refining it, the heavenly flame would condense and appear in the world, eternally inextinguishable. However, with the strength of the two of them, it was impossible for them to refine the corpse of the Tianwu Emperor. If they did so carelessly, they might suffer a backlash from the heavenly flame and be burned to nothing. Aside from the heavenly flame, there was also the inherited martial technique of the Tianwu dynasty, the life-extinguishing blood-reversing swordplay. It was a treasure that would make people envious. If they could find it here, its value would not be any lower than the heavenly flame. Ji Changkong searched the golden coffin. However, after searching for a long time, he did not find anything. He could not help but look at Chu Chaoyun. It was impossible for there to be no inheritance in the resting place of the Tianwu Emperor. Chapter 125. Chu Chaoyun knew what she was thinking. He said, I did not arrive much earlier than you. If I had moved the coffin lid, you would have heard the sound as well. Duan Muking, who was at the side, suddenly walked over to the coffin lid that had fallen to the ground. The golden coffin lid was covered in densely packed ancient characters. Her heart skipped a beat. She quickly took out a piece of paper and a pen, recording it down. This was the martial technique of a sage. Although she did not know what it was definitely not ordinary. Bang! Under the astonished gazes of everyone on the stone platform, Xiao Chen and the other two jumped up from the stone steps. When they landed on the stone platform, the barrier protecting the three of them suddenly shattered and disappeared. Fatso was the first to feel that something was wrong. Oh no, I cannot use my qi or the power of my martial spirit here. Xiao Chen gave it a try. Indeed, it was as Fatso said, the martial spirit in his dantian seemed to be sealed. No matter what, he could not sense it, he was unable to circulate his essence. Ji Changkong looked at Xiao Chen with a cold look in his eyes. He leaped into the air and did not say anything unnecessary, sending a punch at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was stunned at first, then his lips curled up into a cold smile. It was obvious that the people here could not use essence. In that case, Xiao Chen's physical strength was unparalleled on this stone platform. Boom! Xiao Chen quickly sent out a punch. When their fists collided, there was a crisp sound. The 5 fingers on Ji Changkong's right palm were shattered. Ji Changkong retreated 5 steps. He looked at the wound on his hand in disbelief. The 10 fingers were connected to the heart. There was an intense pain, causing his face to twitch. The Guy Marquis held his golden spear. When he saw Xiao Chen arrive, he used his spear to sweep away the Hua clan members. Then, he dashed towards him. In the blink of an eye, the spear arrived before Xiao Chen. Who? Spear after spear exploded in front of Xiao Chen. The Guy Marquis' spear techniques were very good. Even without the support of essence, his spear was still impenetrable. Xiao Chen retreated 2 steps. The Guy Marquis moved forward. The spear stuck to Xiao Chen like glue. No matter how he dodged, he could not avoid it. Pooh! Xiao Chen stepped on air. He had already retreated to the edge of the stone platform. If he took another step back, he would be forced off the platform. The Guy Marquis thought about the uniqueness of the stone platform. If he fell, Xiao Chen would definitely die. He could not help but increase his strength. He pushed forward with his right hand, and the spear was aimed at Xiao Chen's chest. Chi! The lunar shadow saber suddenly appeared in Xiao Chen's hand. Xiao Chen easily parried the full-powered strike of the Guy Marquis. He took a step forward and the saber slid down the spear shaft. Soon, the Guy Marquis' right hand appeared. He quickly let go, and the golden spear fell to the ground with a huang dang sound. Side body strike. Xiao Chen tilted his body to the side and ferociously charged forward. All the energy in his body was gathered on his right shoulder. After the tempering of the heavenly lightning and the seven-leaf flower, a horrifying strength exploded forth. The Guy Marquis was knocked back with a bang. He vomited a mouthful of blood in midair and tumbled on the ground. He nearly fell off the stone platform. Attack together. The strength of this brat's physical body is too horrifying. When Hua Yunfei saw the Guy Marquis being defeated by Xiao Chen in an instant, he could not help but feel fear in his heart. He shouted loudly. These cultivators normally relied too much on essence. Although their physical bodies had been tempered and were much stronger than ordinary people, they were far inferior to Xiao Chen. Bang! Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and punched a Ji clan cultivator in front of him. The Ji clan cultivator fell to the ground, unable to get up. A few of his ribs were even broken. Xiao Chen shouted loudly. He was like a wolf entering a flock of sheep. He executed an ordinary fist technique that he had learned in the past. His movements were simple, firm and fierce. When combined with the horrifying strength in his physical body, none of his subordinates could withstand a single exchange. No one could block him. Xiao Chen looked at Hua Yunfei. Hua Yunfei, who was in the crowd, was startled and quickly retreated. Xiao Chen smiled coldly and said, "Let's see where you can run to." Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and leaped into the air. He swung his right leg and kicked Hua Yunfei's head. Pu ci. Hua Yunfei vomited a mouthful of blood along with a few broken teeth. After he landed on the ground, he immediately fainted. Xiao Chen landed gently and kicked a few times in the air. His speed and strength were astonishing. Miserable cries resounded as those who were struck fell to the ground. After a while, aside from Xiao Chen's group of 3 and Chu Chaoyun who had not made a move, everyone else on the stone platform fell to the ground. They groaned in pain as they looked at Xiao Chen in fear. Fatso said in astonishment, "What a strong physical body. How did this fellow temper it?" Su Xiaoxiao was not too astonished. She said indifferently, "If you used 15 years to temper your physical body, you would be able to reach this level as well." Xiao Chen looked at Chu Chaoyun and walked over step by step. His sharp face revealed a murderous intent, revealing his sharpness. When Chu Chaoyun saw Xiao Chen walking towards him, he did not panic. He took out a basketball-sized golden spirit core from his spatial ring and casually tossed it to Xiao Chen. He smiled faintly, "Looks like I made a wrong decision. I should not have let you in." After receiving the Golden Lion King's spirit core, Xiao Chen placed it into his universe ring. He looked deeply at Chu Chaoyun, but in the end, he did not make a move against him. Even now, when Xiao Chen held the absolute advantage, Xiao Chen could not see through him at all. The feeling that Chu Chaoyun gave Xiao Chen was still extremely dangerous. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at the various noble clan disciples lying on the ground. He walked over to Hua Yunfei and removed his spatial ring. Then, he placed the scarlet sword that Hua Yunfei had been using into the universe ring. The spatial rings of the Tianwu continent were different from the magic treasures that Xiao Chen refined. As long as the ring was removed, anyone could take out the things inside. Xiao Chen slowly walked towards Ji Changkong. Ji Changkong's complexion turned ashen. He said agitatedly, "Xiao Chen, if you dare to touch me, I will make you wish you were dead after we leave this place." Xiao Chen stepped on Ji Changkong's face ruthlessly. "Do you think I will let you off? 3 years later, I will make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly." Xiao Chen grabbed Ji Changkong's spatial ring and kicked Ji Changkong ruthlessly again. A martial saint behind the Ji clan could not stand it any longer. He roared angrily and charged at Xiao Chen. Bang! Xiao Chen kicked him off the stone platform. The instant that person's body landed on the stone platform, there was a loud boom, and he shattered into countless pieces of flesh. The people on the stone platform all felt a chill in their hearts. Xiao Chen picked up the Guy Marquis' spear and placed it into the universe ring. He walked over and removed the Guy Marquis' spatial ring. Then, he turned his gaze to Duanmuking. Duanmuking's expression was ice cold. There was no emotion in his eyes. With a kwang dang sound, he threw the spatial ring on the stone platform. He said coldly, "There are some things that are not yours. Even if you take them, you will spit them out." Xiaochen smiled coldly, "Are you talking about yourself? When you saw that I had a spirit fox, you kept asking for it from me. When I refused, you tried to kill me. Is there anyone as shameless as you?" Duanmuking's expression suddenly became agitated. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. Xiaochen could not be bothered with her. When he turned his head, he saw Fatso pick up the coffin lid and place it into his spatial ring. Xiaochen could not help but feel black lines appear in his heart. This Fatso is truly speechless. He even dares to ask for a coffin lid. When Fatso saw Xiaochen looking at him with disdain, he chuckled, "Don't look at me like that. This coffin lid is refined from scorching blood black gold. Just a small piece is worth hundreds or even tens of thousands of gold taels. Furthermore, there is an ancient martial scripture carved on it. It was carved by a sage. It has a natural charm and can be used as a weapon. Its might is no weaker than a holy weapon. Of course, I will make a copy of the ancient martial scripture for you." Xiaochen felt ashamed in his heart. Only Fatso would dare to use a coffin lid as a weapon. He called out to Fatso and the two of them came to the center of the sage coffin. Fatso looked at the purple-robed emperor lying quietly in the sage coffin. His face was filled with doubt as he said, "The sage coffin clearly has an ancient martial scripture carved on it. Why is it a Tianwu emperor lying in there? Where did the body of the sage go?" Xiaochen felt suspicious as well. Along the way, he had seen countless martial sage corpses. All of them had their heads chopped off. It was clear that it was done by one person. Was it done by the person in the coffin? However, the time difference was too great. The Tianwu dynasty had already been destroyed for more than 5,000 years. As for the people on the stone steps, they were all people from 1,000 years ago. Furthermore, they were from the same era. Rumble. Just as Xiaochen and Fatso were thinking, this small world suddenly shook. After that, there was a loud rumble. The mountain peak above the underground palace suddenly shattered. 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak shattered just like that. Countless rocks flew out of savage forest. It looked like it was raining rocks. Huge rocks fell continuously. Some of the flying spirit beasts did not dodge in time. The huge force of the rocks smashed them into a mangled mess. They cried out miserably as they fell. Xiaochen and the others felt dazzled. The scene before them suddenly disappeared. The white clouds in the sky and the blazing sun in the sky gave off a piercing light, mercilessly shining on the stone platform. Xiaochen was startled. He looked at his surroundings and said, "Why did this stone platform return to the ground? Not good. I can use my essence now." Xiaochen's expression suddenly changed. The people of the noble clans on the stone platform were all at least martial saints. Now that they had recovered their essence, any one of them could easily defeat him. Xiaochen circulated the gravity spell and soared into the sky, heading into the distance. Chi! There was a phoenix cry and Duanmuking turned into an ice phoenix. He spread his wings and gave chase. Ji Changkong cursed and his body turned into a meteor. He left behind a long trail of flames as he gave chase. When the people of the noble clans saw that they could use their essence, they all jumped off the platform and chased in the direction that Xiaochen had gone. The small world above the stone platform had already collapsed. When the crowd jumped off the stone platform, they did not shatter into pieces like they did underground. Su Xiaoxiao and Kim Taeho were worried about Xiaochen's situation, so they quickly gave chase as well. In the blink of an eye, only Chu Chaoyun was left standing on the stone platform. Chu Chaoyun had a calm expression on his face. After everyone had left, he looked at the unconscious Hua Yunfei and gently kicked him off the 1,000-meter-tall stone platform. Chapter 126. Xiaochen turned his head and looked at Duanmuking and Ji Changkong, who were chasing him. A boundless flame started to burn in his right eye. Finally, it turned into a purple light. With a pu sound, a flaming cloud appeared and burned half the sky, blocking the two people behind him. After the flaming cloud scattered, Xiaochen could no longer be seen in the sky. Ji Changkong landed on the ground with a loud boom. The footprint of Xiaochen's footprints on his face had yet to disappear. The few martial saints of the Ji clan quickly rushed over. When they saw the ashen and furious Ji Changkong, they did not dare to say anything. Ji Changkong said in an ice-cold voice, "Search the entire forest. If we cannot find Xiaochen, I will not return to the south." At the periphery of Savage Forest, Xiaochen held a chi returning pill in his mouth. He continuously used the lightning evasion and rushed towards the illusion formation. After a while, he finally arrived in front of everyone and entered. After entering the illusion formation, Xiaochen saw the familiar Zhuang River and the rocks by the shore. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He pushed off the ground and leaped onto the surface of the Zhuang River. Xiaochen circulated the blue dragon cloud soaring art and sped across the surface of the water. With a loud boom, he broke through the waterfall and arrived at the strange rock behind the waterfall. He immediately sat down cross-legged. Qi returning pill, blood replenishing pill. This type of fast recovery medicinal pill had significant side effects. If taken for a long period of time, it would leave behind a serious dependency. Today, Xiaochen had consumed more than 10 qi returning pills. At this moment, he did not dare to be careless. He circulated the essence in his body, trying to force out the remnant medicinal energy in his body. The purple thunder divine incantation circulated in his body over and over again. The remnant medicinal energy in his meridians was continuously washed away. After the essence circulated for a great cycle, it returned to the martial spirit. The blue dragon martial spirit absorbed all the essence. Slowly, it sank into the clear water. Hu! A moment later, an even purer wave of yuan qi flowed from the martial spirit to all the major meridians in his body, then seeped into Xiaochen's flesh and bones through the meridians. Xiaochen repeated this process for a total of 80 cycles of the purple thunder divine incantation. After that, a black viscous substance slowly flowed out of the countless pores in Xiaochen's body. The medicinal dregs that had been lingering in his body for a long time were all forced out. After the medicinal power was forced out, Xiaochen only felt that his body was incomparably weak. Moreover, the black viscous substance on his skin was very uncomfortable. Xiaochen hurriedly jumped out of the waterfall. With a splash, he jumped directly into the turbulent Zhuang River. The black sticky substance on his body was immediately washed away by the river water. Xiaochen came out of the water and took a deep breath. He felt very refreshed. Although his body was still very weak, he was very spirited and full of energy. Bang! Xiaochen's body leaped gently in the water like a flood dragon coming out of the water. He created a long splash as he landed firmly on the riverbank. Xiaochen took out a set of clean clothes from the universe ring and changed into them. He did not do anything else. He found a comfortable place and lay down to sleep. Early the next morning, the sun rose from the east. The melodious chirping of birds in the forest woke Xiaochen up. He opened his eyes reluctantly. Xiaochen slowly stood up and stretched. He felt very comfortable, his body and mind had returned to their peak state. Smiling faintly, Xiaochen took out all the spatial rings of the noble clan's disciples from the universe ring. Although he did not obtain the inheritance of the sage or the heavenly emperor's heavenly flame in this trip to the underground palace, his harvest was not small. First, Xiaochen took out Duanmuking's spatial ring and poured all the things in it on the ground. Immediately, a large pile of spirit stones, battle armor, spirit weapons, and medicinal pills fell to the ground. Xiaochen looked carefully and counted. There were more than 100 inferior grade spirit stones, 20 medial grade spirit stones, 2 superior grade earth-ranked battle armor, 2 earth-ranked spirit weapons, 10 odd medicinal pills above rank 4, and finally, an ancient martial technique manual. It looks like the wealth of those martial sages has been divided among them. Otherwise, even if they are noble clans, they would not have so many treasures on them, Xiaochen said softly. Xiaochen did not hesitate and searched for the spatial rings of the noble clans. With a hua la 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 sound, the ground was covered with spirit stones and spirit weapons. I have struck it rich this time. With so many spirit stones, spirit weapons, and medicinal pills, it will be sufficient for me to cultivate to martial saint. Xiao Chen was wild with joy. He had obtained all the gains of the noble clans in the underground palace. The value of these things added together was equivalent to the wealth of half a noble clan. To anyone, this was a huge treasure. Xiao Chen started to reorganize the items. He had obtained a total of 300 inferior grade spirit stones, 80 medial grade spirit stones, 5 earth-ranked spirit weapons, 3 superior grade earth-ranked battle armor, 6 ancient martial techniques, and countless medicinal pills. Dong! Xiao Chen pushed aside a pile of spirit stones and a small, exquisite, silver warship appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. Damn! Someone really found an ancient-era secret treasure in the underground palace, Xiao Chen said in astonishment as he held the silver warship in his hand. Xiao Chen sent his spiritual sense into the interior of the silver warship. Instantly, he felt like he had entered a huge world. However, this world was very damaged. A piece was missing from a corner of the warship. The formations inside were not complete and were severely damaged. This caused the silver warship to be completely devoid of spiritual energy. Most people would not be able to discover that this was a secret treasure. After withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen looked at the silver warship in his hand. He felt that it was a pity. After all, tens of thousands of years had passed. It was unavoidable for the secret treasure to be damaged. Furthermore, the offensive formations in it were completely damaged. There was no possibility of repairing them. Even if they could repair them, they could only be used as a transportation tool. However, Xiao Chen still decided to repair it. With his current strength, it would be impossible for him to refine such a magic treasure. Not to mention his cultivation realm, he would not be able to complete the task of finding the materials without a few years. Now that there was a nearly complete magic treasure before him, it would be inexcusable if he did not make use of it. As for the offensive formations on it, he could wait until his strength increased before he could carve another one. The most important thing was that this should be a secret treasure refined by a sage. After tens of thousands of years, the sage's imprint had already taken root in the interior of the silver warship. It was as firm as a boulder. From the looks of it, the secret treasure refined by an ancient sage is 100% certain to be a magic treasure from the Compendium of Cultivation, Xiao Chen muttered to himself. Could the Compendium of Cultivation be related to this world? Xiao Chen shook his head and recollected his thoughts, no longer thinking about this question. Xiao Chen placed the spirit stones and battle armor on the ground into his universe ring. Then, he executed the gravity spell and soared into the air, heading for the mountain wall with the waterfall. The wind howled on the mountain wall. The strange rocks were sharp and there was an old tree growing on the cliff. Xiao Chen looked up and saw an even taller mountain peak in front. Clouds shrouded the peak, making it look hazy and mysterious. It should be there, Xiao Chen said softly and continued flying upwards. A biting cold wind blew past him. Xiao Chen's clothes fluttered and his long hair fluttered non-stop. The higher he went, the fiercer the cold wind became. It blew so hard that he could not open his eyes. After a long time, Xiao Chen landed on the mountain peak with a hoot sound. If he stretched out his hand, he would be able to touch the white clouds. The surrounding spiritual energy was incomparably dense, giving him a faintly discernible sense of spirituality. Xiao Chen found an empty space and took out the inferior grade spirit stones from his universe ring. He prepared to lay down a small spirit gathering formation and gather the spirituality of the silver warship. Actually, if he used medial grade spirit stones to lay down the spirit gathering formation, the effects would be more obvious. However, Xiao Chen could not bear to part with these medial grade spirit stones. A medial grade spirit stone was equivalent to 100 inferior grade spirit stones. However, no one would be foolish enough to exchange for one. This was because medial grade spirit stones were too rare in the Great Qin nation. After a while, a small spirit gathering formation appeared. Xiao Chen placed the silver warship in the center of the formation. Then, he slowly infused his essence into it. A faint light flowed along the formation lines and started flowing slowly. The dense spiritual energy in the surroundings poured in wildly. Within the formation lines, the surrounding spiritual energy was like a mist. After a while, it actually gathered into droplets of spiritual energy. Ci. A resplendent pillar of light suddenly lit up in the center of the formation and rushed to the sky. The small silver warship quickly rose up from the pillar of light. The body of the warship flickered with two different lights. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense into the silver warship. The formation lines carved on the silver warship spun rapidly, continuously absorbing the horrifying spiritual energy contained in the pillar of light. After half an hour, the spirit stones on the ground started to crack. Xiao Chen said in astonishment, "Not good. The amount of spiritual energy required by this silver warship is too horrifying. A small spirit gathering formation would not be able to satisfy it. This fellow's appetite is too big," Xiao Chen thought hatefully. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth driven by 100 spirit stones could not even last for 2 hours. This completely exceeded his expectations. Xiao Chen took out the Golden Lion King's spirit core from the universe ring. He looked at the silver warship in the sky hesitantly, feeling reluctant to part with it. This golden spirit core contained the spiritual energy that the Golden Lion King had absorbed for hundreds of years. It was incomparably pure. No matter what attribute a cultivator had, they would be able to absorb it. If one placed it in the spirit gathering formation, it would instantly raise the rank of the spirit gathering formation to medial grade. However, Xiao Chen was reluctant to part with it. He planned to keep it for when he advanced to Martial King. Martial King was a hurdle. If he could pass it, he would immediately stand at the peak of everyone. If he could not, he would only waste his life. In the end, Xiao Chen put it away and took out the medial grade spirit stones. The value of this medial grade spirit stone was not inferior to the spirit core at all. Furthermore, it had great practical value. It was a hard currency everywhere. Xiao Chen placed it on the formation runes. His heart felt like it was bleeding. 40 medial grade spirit stones used up close to half of Xiao Chen's collection before he finished laying the medial grade spirit gathering formation. Xiao Chen formed a hand seal, and a strong wind blew. All the spiritual energy within a kilometer surged over in an endless stream. Dee-da. Dee-da. The spiritual energy turned into water droplets and fell from the mountain peak like rain. These were all the essence of spiritual energy. Xiao Chen did not want to waste it. He took out a spatial magic treasure jade bottle and placed it at the side. Then, he collected all the water droplets that fell from the sky. The pillar of light in the center of the formation became even more resplendent. The silver warship started to give off a boundless radiance. Xiao Chen could clearly feel the sage Taoist charm in the warship slowly awakening. Chapter 127. Who? A horrifying holy might burst forth and the silver warship started to rise rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it had risen by 1,000 meters and turned into a black dot, disappearing from Xiao Chen's vision. Xiao Chen was startled and he quickly flew up. The gravity spell was not a true flying martial technique. The higher Xiao Chen flew, the stronger the gravitational pull. The amount of essence he exhausted also increased. High up in the sky, Xiao Chen flew higher and higher. He could see the boundless clouds churning around him. The resplendent pillar of light in the center of the spirit gathering formation pierced through the boundless clouds. It looked like it was really going to reach the sky. The essence in Xiao Chen's body was rapidly depleting. He frowned slightly. Right now, he could only see a blurry silhouette of the silver warship. He did not know how high it was going to fly. Xiao Chen clenched his teeth and took out a medial grade spirit stone and placed it on his palm. Instantly, a horrifying essence flowed into Xiao Chen's meridians. The dense essence immediately filled them up. A feeling of excitement spread through every inch of Xiao Chen's body. He felt like he was going to explode. He was filled with boundless energy. Boom! Xiao Chen shouted and his speed suddenly increased by several times. His figure created a shockwave in the air and he caught up to the silver warship in the blink of an eye. Rumble. The silver warship stood at the top of the pillar of light. With a loud bang, it instantly turned into a silver warship that was several hundred meters long and 6 meters tall. There were many banners on the bow of the warship. There was a large yen character written on them, fluttering in the wind. Dark clouds covered the surroundings of the warship and thunder roared incessantly. Boundless lightning surrounded the warship. It can actually repair itself. How did the ancient sages refine it? Xiao Chen was astonished when he saw the silver warship surrounded by lightning. Originally, Xiao Chen had intended to repair the damaged formation lines himself. He did not expect that after the spiritual energy of the silver warship gathered together, it would automatically repair itself. Suddenly, Xiao Chen thought of something. If he repaired it like this, as a sage secret treasure, it would be covered with the sage's mark. Now that the sage was far away, it would automatically search for a descendant of the sage's bloodline and recognize him as its master. I have to erase the sage's mark and put my own mark on it, Xiao Chen said word by word with determination in his eyes. Xiao Chen passed through the boundless dark clouds and the flashing lightning bolts. Then, he landed firmly on the bow of the warship. His gaze was filled with caution as he looked at the banner with the word yen on it. The black flag seemed to have descended from ancient times. It stood quietly at the bow of the ship, fluttering in the wind and making a flapping sound. The character, yen, written on the flag was like a dancing dragon and a dancing phoenix. Every stroke of the character seemed to contain the strength of 1,000 caddies, revealing its sharpness and imposing manner. There was a high chance of death. However, Xiao Chen. There was. And yen, of the danger involved went without saying. However, Xiao Chen's eyes were filled with determination. He did not intend to take even half a step back. He sent his spiritual sense into the banner like a sharp sword. Boom! In an instant, the surrounding scenery disappeared, and Xiao Chen appeared on a piece of thick magma. From time to time, waves of flame would surge out, and in the distance, there was even a volcano erupting, releasing endless waves of heat and scorched red lava. Strangely, there were 9 suns in the sky and a gigantic deity appeared in the sky. Behind him, a brilliant light shone out and boundless might radiated out into the space. Puchi. The deity suddenly opened his eyes and shot out a golden beam of light that enveloped Xiao Chen. He shouted loudly, "How dare you be so disrespectful to a deity? Why are you not kneeling?" The voice was like thunder from the 9 heavens. Every single word was shocking, echoing endlessly in this space. It was deafening, causing people to feel a chill in their hearts. In the end, this voice converged into strands of echoes that fused with the beating of Xiao Chen's heart. The sound was getting faster and faster. Xiao Chen's heart was also beating rapidly, as if it was jumping out of his chest. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen held his chest, feeling a huge pressure. His heart felt extremely stifled, pained, and conflicted. His sharp face contorted, and he could not help but kneel on the ground with his right leg. "Why are you still not kneeling?" The voice continued to echo in Xiao Chen's ears. It was like it was imprinted in Xiao Chen's mind, impossible to get rid of. The divine voice was vast and mighty, towering over the 9 heavens. The voice was like thunder, and every word was like a jewel, sharp as a sword. How could a mortal not fear it? The might of an ancient sage was just that terrifying. Even after tens of thousands of years, his imprint still had such a horrifying might. In this mental space, he held the initiative. This was a contest that spanned 10,000 years. Unless Xiao Chen's spiritual sense could simulate an existence that surpassed this deity, he would not have any chance of victory. As long as his other leg knelt down, his mental imprint would completely disappear, and his body would become a soulless body. Xiao Chen did his best to maintain a trace of clarity in his spiritual pedestal. Had he seen anything that could break through the might of a deity and trample on him? The ancient sages had seen deities before. Hence, they simulated a deity in this space. However, the strongest cultivator Shao Chen had seen was merely Yuing. How could she fight with a deity? Even the Thunder King and the Tianwu Emperor would not have a chance of victory against a deity in Shao Chen's opinion. The strength of the ancient sages was definitely stronger than the later Emperor Wu. There was no doubt about this. If even the sages could not defeat them, how could they defeat them? The deity visualized by the sages was a legendary deity, an existence even more horrifying than the sages and the ancient emperors. Suddenly, a figure appeared in Shao Chen's mind. Shao Chen suddenly thought of the man he saw in the Sage Dao Comprehension painting, the mysterious man surrounded by 18 blue dragons. Boom! Shao Chen shouted and 18 blue dragons suddenly flew out from behind him. They roared continuously, instantly breaking the divine sound reverberating in the air. The deity in the sky roared angrily, and a bright light flickered behind him. He shouted loudly, "Ant, do you know you have committed a great sin?" Shao Chen closed his eyes and his spiritual pedestal was clear. The corner of his mouth curled up in a cold smile. After that, he opened his eyes and 2 beams of purple light shot out, clashing with the golden light of the deity without any fear. The so-called deity is just the imagination of mortals. It is born from the beliefs of the masses. If I believe in God in my heart, then God's might is vast and boundless. If I do not have God in my heart, then everything in the world exists in my heart. I am me, and God cannot control me. Shao Chen looked at the deity in the sky and said slowly, "I should be thanking you. If it were not for you, I would never be able to get rid of this obsession in my heart." The path of cultivation was long and distant. The further one walked, the higher the requirement for one's mental state. The so-called talent was not that important anymore. In the ancient era, many people with ordinary talent became sages. They relied on a strong will and a pure mental state. Regardless of which world it was, there would always be things that ordinary people could not understand. Regarding the unknown, people liked to use miracles to explain it. However, was there really a deity in this world? No one knew. Even if there was, it would not be the kind of deity that people believed in. Shao Chen had gotten rid of the obsession in his heart. It was a great opportunity for him to temper his mental state in the future. In the end, this deity was just an imprint left behind by a sage. As long as he understood this, there was no reason for Shao Chen to lose this battle that spanned tens of thousands of years. Just as Shao Chen spoke, the light behind the deity started to dim. The bright light started to dissipate, finally vanishing into nothingness. Rumble. A boundless sea appeared behind Shao Chen. The sound of the sea surged and waves surged. Layers of waves surged and surged. There was a dragon roar and a blue dragon leaped out of the sea. A man holding a saber stood on the dragon's head. The moment he appeared, the 18 blue dragons surrounding Shao Chen immediately flew behind him. The dragon roars rang out endlessly, shaking the surroundings. Cracks actually appeared at the borders of this space, extending to the horizon. The man standing on the dragon's head looked at the deity in the sky and revealed a disdainful smile. He pushed off the ground and his figure disappeared. Pu ci. There was a flash of saber light and the head of the deity in the sky was chopped off. It was so fast that Shao Chen could not even see its back. The naked eye could not keep up at all. Heaven and earth shattered. The scene in front of Shao Chen changed again. All the lava from the volcano disappeared. A black flag was stuck in the middle of a desolate land. Shao Chen seemed to have come from beyond the heavens. He slowly landed on the ground and walked over to the black flag. The word Yen was written on the flag. Shao Chen did not hesitate. He walked over and picked up the black flag. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged. A strong wind blew and sand and rocks flew. Who? Shao Chen opened his mouth and swallowed the black flag. He wanted to swallow up the Taoist rhymes contained in the flag. The space instantly turned still. Shao Chen sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. He carefully comprehended the laws of heaven and earth, comprehending the Taoist rhymes left by the sage in the flag. The surrounding environment changed continuously. Sometimes, there was smoke everywhere. Blood splattered everywhere in the ancient battlefield. Sages fell and great demons were destroyed. Sometimes, it was a snowy night. Under the full moon, flowers filled the sky. A handsome man and a beautiful woman lingered together. Sometimes, it was a sage comprehending the Tao. Mysterious phenomena appeared in the sky. Boundless lightning crackled as the sage comprehended the great Tao amidst the thunder, materializing his own laws. In the end, all this disappeared, leaving behind only a boundless gray. A figure stood in the air, looking into the distance. There was a boundless loneliness in his eyes, an indescribable loneliness. This was the life of a sage. He was once young and frivolous, full of love and hatred, flipping the mortal world upside down. He was once unrivaled in the world, ascending into the heavens and descending into the earth, plucking the stars and the moon. He was omnipotent. However, in the end, he still left behind a boundless loneliness, a loneliness that no one could understand. There was a long sigh. Since ancient times, the sages were all lonely. 10,000 years of worldly affairs were all for naught. Xiaochen suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with chaos. He saw the life of an ancient great sage. It felt as long as 10,000 years, but it also felt like only an instant. It was like a hazy dream. Chapter 128. Who? Amid the chaos, a black flag materialized in Xiaochen's eyes. Finally, it materialized in the air. Xiaochen shouted and flew into the air. Then, he grabbed the pole of the flag and stabbed it into the ground. A resounding Xiao character appeared on the black flag. This was the mark left by the sage. In the end, Xiaochen had assimilated it. Xiaochen opened his eyes again, and his surroundings changed again. Xiaochen stood on the bow of the silver warship. He had finally returned to the real world. The black flag on the bow fluttered. The Yen character on the flag had disappeared, replaced by the Xiao character. This secret treasure finally bore Xiaochen's mark. Xiaochen smiled gently and sent out his spiritual sense. He started to check the formation lines on the secret treasure. After a while, he withdrew his spiritual sense. He felt slightly disappointed. The formation lines on the offensive formation had not improved. There were no signs of them being repaired. It looked like he could only redraw them when his cultivation realm increased. However, the other functions of the secret treasure had already recovered. It was no different from when it was at its peak. At the very least, its speed and defense should not disappoint Xiaochen. Xiaochen smiled faintly and jumped off the bow. The secret treasure still had to go through lightning for 49 days before it could truly condense the Tao of heaven and earth. For the time being, there was nothing for Xiaochen to do. Being 10,000 meters in the air, there was a different feeling. Xiaochen felt this special feeling as he quickly descended to the ground. An unending stream of dark clouds appeared below Xiaochen. Xiaochen extended his spiritual sense and saw countless raindrops falling from the clouds. When the clouds collided, thunder roared and lightning tore through the sky. Xiaochen sighed, "When one is in the sky, I nearly forgot about the mundane world." Xiaochen had not finished using the medial-grade spirit stones in his hand. He infused his essence into his body and charged through the dark clouds. The essence on his body blocked off the falling raindrops, allowing them to flow out of his body. Xiaochen suddenly became interested. He used the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula to imitate Ji Chankong's martial technique. His body turned into a meteor and landed on the ground. Boom! The meteor pierced through the endless curtain of rain in the sky and landed on the ground in an instant. It exploded with a loud bang, and Xiaochen's figure appeared. The surrounding air waves shook, and countless raindrops evaporated in an instant. Looking at the medial-grade spirit stone that had completely lost its luster, Xiaochen was somewhat astonished. He muttered, "This is a martial technique that requires an inherited martial spirit." Using the changing character formula to imitate it consumes too much energy. I have to remember this in the future. Xiaochen tossed aside the medial-grade spirit stone that he had exhausted all his essence. Then, he walked quickly through the rain. Xiaochen walked quickly on the Zhuang River. Finally, he passed through the gushing waterfall and entered the cave. He took out the ancient martial techniques from the universe ring. Xiaochen started to read them slowly. These so-called ancient words were the traditional Chinese characters of China. It was not difficult for Xiaochen to read them. He had just seen the life of an ancient sage and gained some comprehension in his heart. This kind of comprehension was a very profound state. Xiaochen felt his mind become much clearer. Many of the problems that he could not figure out in the past were instantly solved. He did not know when this state would disappear. Hence, he quickly took out the ancient martial techniques and read them carefully, hoping to gain some comprehension. The ancient martial techniques were very different from the martial techniques of the present world. The biggest difference was that the ancient martial techniques were not divided into heaven, earth, profound, or yellow. Xiaochen read them carefully one by one. He did not seek to understand all of them, he just wanted to gain some comprehension. He skipped over the parts that he could not understand. He would not be stuck at a dead end. Just like that, Xiaochen read the 5 ancient martial techniques in the cave for half a month. Only when the feeling of comprehension disappeared did Xiaochen stop. Hua la la. The waterfall in front of the cave continued to flow. Xiaochen looked through the waterfall and saw that the rain did not stop. It continued to pour without end. Because the silver warship had to undergo a baptism of lightning, the rain did not stop for the past half a month. Xiaochen got up and passed through the gushing waterfall with a shua sound. He faced the pouring rain and landed on the gushing Zhuang River. The water on the Zhuang River surged. It had already reached the riverbank long ago. The current on the river was faster than ever. Xiaochen's blue dragon cloud soaring art had already reached the small perfection. Relying on this heaven-ranked movement technique, he stood firmly on the surface of the gushing river, not panicking at all. Closing his eyes, Xiaochen allowed the rain to fall on him. He carefully thought about the gains he had made in the past half a month. His mind was clear and he entered a wondrous state. The ancient martial techniques gave him a lot of inspiration. Some of them were sword techniques, some were purely cultivation techniques, and some were spear techniques. However, Xiaochen did not intend to practice them. These martial techniques were not the peak martial techniques of the ancient era. As the saying goes, one should not bite off more than one can chew. If he were to practice them all over again, the gains would not make up for the losses. When the various martial techniques were mixed together, they would end up becoming fetters. Xiaochen intended to continue comprehending the rushing thunder saber technique. He wanted to combine the things he had comprehended in the past half a month, the blue dragon cloud soaring art, and the battle sage origins changing character formula. He wanted to make the rushing thunder saber technique undergo a qualitative change. The difficulty of this was no less than creating a new martial technique. Using the rushing thunder saber technique as the core, Xiaochen combined what he had learned in the past and his recent comprehensions to refine the rushing thunder saber technique. Xiaochen stood on the surface of the Zhuang River for half a month. He seemed to have felt the bloodline of the Zhuang River. The gushing river water seemed to have merged with him. Pu ci. On this day, Xiaochen finally opened his eyes. His black pupils were calm, without any ripples. With a thought, the lunar shadow saber appeared in his right hand from the universe ring with a shua sound. Drawing the saber. Xiaochen's feet moved slightly and his right hand slowly brandished the saber. There was no light on the saber. With a shua sound, the saber flashed through the rain, passing through the gaps between the raindrops. It disappeared in a flash. It was extremely fast and did not get any water on it. Boom! A bolt of lightning appeared out of nowhere and landed on the surface of the water. There was a loud rumble and a 2-meter-tall wave was kicked up. Electricity flowed on the surface of the water and was transmitted to Xiaochen's body. Xiaochen's expression did not change at all. The electricity crackled and exploded on his skin. He looked like he was covered in electricity, but it did not injure him at all. Finally, the electricity gathered on the black blade of the lunar shadow saber. Xiaochen took a step forward and made use of this electricity to quickly draw his saber. Arc light chop. A purple arc, carrying with it a 2-meter-long electric light, exploded in the rain with a bang. In an instant, the water droplets immediately evaporated into steam. A mist spread out, and the surrounding space seemed to be cut off. There was a momentary emptiness in the pouring rain. Boom! Another bolt of lightning resounded and the waves soared to the sky. Xiaochen soared into the sky, creating an intense wave under his feet. For this rushing heaven chop, Xiaochen combined the dragon soaring cloud art. His figure was as fast as a flood dragon. Everywhere he passed, the rain was cut in half. In the blink of an eye, Xiaochen moved several hundred meters. With the help of the blue dragon cloud soaring art, his body suddenly spun in midair and actually paused for a moment. In a situation where he did not use the gravity spell, this was almost impossible. The gravity spell took too long to activate, so it did not have much combat value. Thus, Xiaochen usually only used it to escape. Pooh! The instant he paused, Xiaochen's aura suddenly rose to its peak. Under the pressure of this aura, the falling rain seemed to slow down. Boom! 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 Rushing thunder chop. Xiaochen shouted and thunder roared behind him. Countless claps of thunder sounded out, making his aura even more horrifying. It was like a thunder god had descended. Bang! Carrying the momentum of the rushing thunder, Xiaochen chopped the water with his saber. The huge force sliced the water in half like tofu, forming a wall of water. Then, a 3-meter-high wave rose. Xiaochen landed in the water and the walls of water on both sides quickly closed up. Although the walls of water looked soft, they contained 1,000 kilograms of force. It could easily crush a cultivator into meat paste. Rushing thunder second chain chop. Using the energy accumulated from the previous 4 attacks, Xiaochen quickly executed the rushing thunder second chain chop. This attack did not have a clear target, it was just swung at the air. Hu Qi. A whirlpool of energy appeared in the air, sucking in the walls of water that were closing up and forming a huge whirlpool. Xiaochen pushed off gently and jumped to the riverbank. The whirlpool spun for a long time. The surrounding river water was all gathered together. After a while, a huge pillar of water rose up and rushed to the sky. Xiaochen stood on the riverbank and looked at the pillar of water rushing to the sky. There was not much satisfaction on his face. In the past month, Xiaochen had used the Sage Dao comprehension and the ancient martial techniques to evolve the rushing thunder chop to an even more horrifying level. However, it was still far from the goal in his heart. The martial techniques that he had learned were not completely melded together. In the past month, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that the potential of the rushing thunder saber technique was limitless. It did not seem like a profound ranked martial technique at all. Even until now, he still could not understand the laws contained within it. He was also unable to execute the rushing thunder third chain chop. He felt that something was missing. Xiaochen sighed slightly and smiled bitterly. Looks like it will be difficult for me to completely comprehend the rushing thunder saber technique as a superior grade martial master. After resting for a while, Xiaochen looked into the distance. His gaze penetrated through the misty rain. He looked at the middle-sized spirit-gathering formation at the peak of the mountain in the distance. Then, he executed the gravity spell and flew in that direction. After a while, he passed through the boundless clouds. Xiaochen stood on the peak of the mountain once again. It was raining here as well. However, it was raining spiritual energy that had turned into spiritual liquid. In the center of the spirit-gathering formation, the golden pillar of light was still as resplendent as before. The spirit spring on the silver warship had already been repaired long ago. At this moment, it was undergoing the baptism of lightning and did not need the help of spiritual energy. Xiaochen stored the spiritual energy in the center of the spirit-gathering formation into his universe ring. Then, he walked into the spirit-gathering formation and sat down cross-legged, entering a state of cultivation. He did not want to waste the spiritual energy that he had gathered. In an instant, the liquefied spiritual energy in the air all gathered on Xiao Chen's body. Boundless spiritual energy poured into Xiao Chen's body. The spiritual energy in Xiao Chen's meridians surged endlessly. The speed of his cultivation in the spirit-gathering formation was much faster than the cave behind the waterfall. Xiao Chen consumed another fasting pill and started to circulate the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Chapter 129. The time spent cultivating was incomparably lonely. The sun rose and set, the clouds gathered and dispersed. Xiao Chen seemed to have entered a meditative state, not moving at all. Ka. After half a month, the lines on the spirit-gathering formation started to slowly crack. The 40 medial-grade spirit stones all turned into powder. Boom! Xiao Chen opened his eyes and shot out a purple light. After more than a month of bitter cultivation, in addition to the cultivation of the spirit-gathering formation, he had finally reached the peak of superior-grade martial master. He smiled faintly, finally revealing a satisfied expression. However, when he thought about how Ji Changkong had already become a martial saint long ago and how those noble clan disciples with inherited martial spirits were all at the peak of martial grand master, he could not help but feel dispirited. If he was like these people and could awaken his martial spirit at birth, he would not have wasted 15 years. With his talent, his cultivation speed would not be any slower than these people. Boom! A huge silver warship slowly landed on the peak of the mountain. After 49 days of baptism by lightning, this ancient secret treasure had finally recovered some of its former glory. However, this huge warship was too conspicuous. With a thought, the flag on the bow of the warship flew into Xiao Chen's eyes. The warship quickly became smaller. After a while, a small silver boat appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and jumped onto the boat. He looked at the distant white water city and said softly, "It is time to go back." The formation activated and the small silver boat soared into the sky. It moved as fast as lightning. It was several times faster than when Xiao Chen used the gravity spell. The wind whistled by his ears continuously. Xiao Chen stood on the bow with his hands behind his back. His clothes and long hair fluttered in the wind. There was a trace of indifference on his sharp face. Unexpectedly, there was a trace of the ethereal feeling of an immortal. Xiao Chen was incomparably excited. There had never been a flight that was as carefree as this one. Every cell in his body was relaxed. Finally, Xiao Chen slowed down and increased the altitude of the ship, avoiding those flying beasts. He sat at the bow and took out a bottle of wine from his universe ring. Then, he took out some snacks and started to drink by himself. At this moment, the torrential rain that had been raining for a month finally stopped. The sunlight after the rain warmed everyone. Xiao Chen enjoyed the wind as he drank and ate. As he looked at the different scenery in the sky, he occasionally revealed a contented smile. At this moment, he finally experienced the feeling of an immortal. For 1,000 kilometers of the world, anywhere he wanted to go. Tasting a bottle of wine, watching the clouds gather and scatter, flowers bloom and wilt, gazing at the sun, the moon, mountains, and rivers. Xiao Chen sat at the bow and traveled in the sky. When he was about to leave Savage Forest, a black warship appeared in Xiao Chen's spiritual sense. Startled, Xiao Chen quickly increased the altitude of the small silver boat. He searched the surroundings carefully. After a while, the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace, the Gi Marquis' golden warship, and the Hua clan's warship appeared one after another. Xiao Chen revealed a faint smile and said, "This group of people is really patient. It has already been more than a month, and they still have not left." Hu Qi. Suddenly, the silver warship accelerated. Xiao Chen entered the hold of the warship and activated the formation in the secret treasure with all his might. At this moment, the secret treasure of the ancient sages displayed a horrifying speed. It streaked across the sky like a silver bolt of lightning, heading for Whitewater City at lightning speed. The distance of more than 1,000 meters was covered in an instant. Xiao Chen stopped the silver warship in the sky above Whitewater City. He was not in a rush to descend. Xiao Chen did not even need to think to know the situation in the city. His wanted posters were everywhere. The noble clans had issued a kill order for him at the same time. This was not something that the Jiang clan's wanted poster could compare to. Xiao Chen thought about the compendium of cultivation. There was a shape-shifting technique. When practiced to great perfection, one could turn into anything in the world. Mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, even the sun, moon, and stars could be used. Now that he thought about it, it seemed like he could use it here. Xiao Chen did not have any extravagant hopes of reaching that legendary realm. All he needed was to change his appearance slightly. The sun set in the west. In the blink of an eye, it was dusk. Xiao Chen had already practiced the shape-shifting technique to the point where he could change his appearance. However, he was not very proficient. He could not change his height or physique. Actually, with Xiao Chen's Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's third layer, he could practice many of the minor spells in the Compendium of Cultivation. However, he did not have the time to study them. This resulted in him needing to use the shape-shifting technique. Furthermore, he had no choice but to use it on the spot. The full moon hung high in the sky, and the stars dotted the sky. Night fell completely. Xiao Chen turned into a dark-skinned middle-aged man. He prepared to sneak into Whitewater City during the night. Dong! Dong! Just at this moment, the spirit blood jade in front of Xiao Chen's chest suddenly moved. Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. After a while, Bai jumped out of the spirit blood jade. After sleeping for such a long time, the moment Bai jumped out, it immediately dove into Xiao Chen's embrace. When it saw the dark-skinned Xiao Chen, it did not understand what was going on. Its large eyes were filled with doubt as it looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled happily and restored his appearance. Bai immediately became intimate with him. Xiao Chen smiled and said, "I am currently being chased by bad people. I cannot reveal my true appearance. Hide in the spirit blood jade first. Later, I will treat you to some fish porridge." Bai nodded obediently. It gestured with its hands that there was a very big bowl. This meant that it wanted to eat a big bowl of fish porridge. It looked extremely cute, causing Xiao Chen to be unable to restrain a smile. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense and found a place with no one around. Then, he quickly descended from the sky. Xiao Chen turned back into the dark-skinned middle-aged man from earlier. His appearance was completely different from before. Then, he swaggered over to the city gates. There were 6 wanted posters of Xiao Chen pasted on the city walls. Under each of the posters, there was a huge bounty. Aside from the bounty, the noble clans would also offer a spirit weapon and a high-ranked martial technique. What surprised Xiao Chen was that he also saw the wanted poster of the Shiha province's Yan clan. He could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. When the noble clans make their move, they are indeed incomparably tyrannical. Dongming Province, Nanling Province, Shiha Province, and the King's Residence. The 4 prefectures of the Great Qin Nation are all after me. It looks like there is no longer a place for me in this world. After entering Whitewater City, Xiao Chen headed straight for Liushang Pavilion. As night approached, Liushang Pavilion's business was booming. When Xiao Chen walked in, the first floor was already filled with tables. He could not see any empty seats. Xiao Chen headed straight for the second floor. The second floor was filled with cultivators. At this moment, they were loudly discussing the events of the past month. It has been more than a month. The noble clans have practically flipped the entire savage forest upside down. However, they still have not found Xiao Chen. After so many years, this is the first time I saw so many people challenging the noble clans at the same time. Even the Night Spirit Palace's Mu Qingxue was not as famous as the current Xiao Chen. I do not understand. How did Xiao Chen offend so many noble clans at the same time? Haha, this Xiao Chen had already offended 3 noble clans because of the ancient remnant map. After he entered the ancient remnant, I heard from the people who escaped that he robbed the 4 noble clans. He did not even let the Guy Marquis off. Doesn't that mean that this fellow has a great treasure on him? If we capture him, we will have struck it rich. There is no need to capture him. As long as we have news of him and report it to the noble clans, we will be able to obtain 1,000 gold taels. As Xiao Chen headed for the 3rd floor, he heard the loud discussions of the cultivators on the 2nd floor. This caused him to feel somewhat astonished. He did not expect that after so long, he would still be in the eye of the storm. After flashing his VIP card, Xiao Chen headed for the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor was much quieter. They were all haggling in low voices. When Xiao Chen looked over, he discovered that many people were trading for some of the treasures in the ancient remnant. Although many cultivators died miserably on this trip to the ancient remnant, there was no lack of lucky cultivators or strong cultivators who found good things. Hey! Just as Xiao Chen was about to sit down, he saw a cultivator at a table, about to trade for a small and exquisite copper bell. That copper bell had an ancient charm to it. Unfortunately, the surface of it was badly damaged. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense over. When it came in contact with the copper bell, a loud chime resounded in his mind. His mind shook and he nearly fainted. He was greatly startled and quickly withdrew his spiritual sense. Hey! I risked my life to find this bell in a coffin in the ancient remnant. It is definitely a secret treasure. To think you are only willing to pay 1,000 silver taels for it. What a bastard. The owner of the copper bell was a martial grand master dressed in grey robes. At this moment, his expression was extremely agitated. His right arm was broken in half. When he heard the other party's bid, his face turned ashen and his expression was filled with resentment. During this trip to the ancient remnant, his right arm was broken in half and he became a cripple. He originally thought that he would be able to sell this copper bell for a good price. Who knew it was only worth 1,000 silver taels? Opposite the grey-robed martial grand master was a merchant. He had an impatient expression on his face as he said unhappily, "There are good and bad secret treasures as well. This copper bell of yours is clearly damaged and can no longer be used. How can it be worth so much? If it was not for the fact that it is quite old and has some value as a collector, I would be too lazy to even pay 1,000 silver taels for it. Do you want to sell it or not? Don't waste my time. You are ruthless." The cultivator with the broken arm said with an ashen expression before he turned and left the table. The merchant at the table smiled coldly. "What is this? It is just like a piece of scrap metal. To think I thought it was a treasure." The surrounding people all looked over. When the cultivator with the broken arm heard this, his face flushed red. He felt ashamed in his heart and he quickened his pace. Xiao Chen walked over and stopped this person. That person looked at Xiao Chen angrily and said, "What are you trying to do? Are you still selling the copper bell in your hand?" "I am interested," Xiao Chen smiled faintly. The cultivator with the broken arm smiled coldly. "You want to take advantage of me? I risked my life for it. If you want to take advantage of me, there is no way." Xiao Chen smiled gently and did not say anything. He placed an inferior grade spirit stone into the cultivator's clothes. When the cultivator with the broken arm touched his clothes, he was startled. "Here. Many thanks." He handed the copper bell to Xiao Chen and bowed deeply to Xiao Chen. He did not say anything else and immediately left Liushang Pavilion. Xiao Chen looked at the cultivator's back and sighed in his heart. This was the path of a cultivator. Behind the surface, they lived a life that was 10,000 times more dangerous than ordinary people. Once they were severely injured, they could only be an ordinary person for the rest of their life. Chapter 130. This person could be considered lucky to have met Xiao Chen. There were cultivators who had the same experience as him. After they became crippled, they did not even have enough food and clothing to eat. They ended up living a miserable life. At this moment, a manservant suddenly walked over. He said to Xiao Chen, "Dear guest, our young master invites you up." Xiao Chen was slightly startled. "I have already changed my appearance. How did Fatso recognize me?" Feeling suspicious, Xiao Chen put away the copper bell and followed the manservant to the 5th floor. On the 5th floor, when the familiar face of Fatso saw Xiao Chen come up, he immediately laughed and walked forward. He patted Xiao Chen hard and said, "Brat, you are really capable. You managed to hide for so long without being discovered by the noble clans. What's wrong? Are you really looking for this fat lord to run away this time?" Xiao Chen smiled faintly and voiced the doubts in his heart. Fatso gestured for Xiao Chen to sit down. Then, he unfurled his signature fan with a schwa sound. He smiled proudly and said, "It is just that this fat lord's intelligence is slightly higher than others. I know that you will change your appearance when you enter the city. However, the ring on your finger will not change. That is why I gave every manservant a drawing. As long as they see a person wearing a ring like yours, they are to immediately invite him over." Xiao Chen looked at the universe ring in his hand and frowned slightly. He did not expect there to be such an obvious flaw in his plan. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and looked at Fatso. He asked, "That day on the stone platform, after I left, did any of you see any movements from Chu Chaoyun?" Fatso shook his head and sighed, "No. After you flew away that day, all of us left the stone platform. No one noticed Chu Chaoyun. When we returned, the Heavenly Emperor's coffin and corpse, as well as Chu Chaoyun, had all disappeared." Hearing those words, Xiao Chen furrowed his brows slightly. He carefully pondered. He seemed to have cleared up some of the doubts he had about the journey to the remnants. However, he couldn't figure out why Chu Chaoyun and the Celestial Emperor's coffin had disappeared together. Although the Tianwu Emperor was not an ancient martial emperor, he had comprehended the laws of heaven and earth and comprehended his own Tao. Taoist rhymes automatically appeared around the corpse, repelling the space ring. It could not be stored in the space ring at all. Since it was such a huge coffin, how did it disappear? For the past month or so, aside from cultivating, Xiao Chen had been thinking about the various aspects of this trip to the ruins. He felt as though there was an invisible hand pushing the whole thing forward. Everyone had become someone else's pawn. Xiao Chen said to Fatso, "Have you ever wondered how the Jiang family got the map of the relic?" No one knew how the Jiang family had obtained the blueprint. The blueprint seemed to have suddenly flown out without any warning. After that, it was very coincidentally leaked out, dragging in the noble clans of the Dongming province. In the end, no one expected that the Jiang family would have the support of the Ji family. The Jiang family had the support of the Ji family, so they were not afraid of these aristocratic families. Everything had formed a delicate balance. No one could explore the ruins alone, they could only advance together. Kim Tae-ho took out a few maps of different ages from his bosom. These maps were all incomparably ancient. They gave off an aura of vicissitudes. Xiao Chen guessed that the oldest one was at least 3,000 years old. Fatso said slowly, "We reacted too late. Before we entered the relic, I already felt that something was wrong. So, I ordered people to gather all the information about the relic in the Dongming province. In the end, I only received news a few days ago. The final location of these maps was the underground palace that we went to. I took a look. The earliest map was from the time when the Tianwu dynasty was just destroyed." Xiao Chen was startled. The Tianwu dynasty had already been destroyed for 5,000 years. That was to say, someone had started this plan 5,000 years ago. Then, it continued until today. Thinking of the strange stone platform and the countless corpses on it, Xiao Chen said in disbelief, "Do you think that someone wanted to revive the Tianwu emperor?" There was clearly an ancient formation below the stone platform. It absorbed everyone's spiritual energy and life force and gathered them together. Fatso scratched his head and said, "That should not be possible. In the history of the Tianwu continent, I have never heard of any method to revive a person. Even the emperor could not do it. There were many corpses that turned into corpses, but they did not have their memories from when they were alive." Xiao Chen thought about it and felt that it made sense. Reviving a dead person was something that went against the cycle of the Great Tao. If it really happened, the laws of heaven and earth would definitely change. What do you think of the headless sage on the platform? Xiao Chen remembered that he still had a broken sword in his universe ring. Until now, he could not figure out what was so special about it. He wanted to see if he could get some answers from Fatso. Kim Tae-ho took out a very old drawing and said, This is the drawing from 1,000 years ago. That was the era when the great Qin nation was at its strongest. Be it the Dongming province, the Shihe province, or the southern province, they all produced many geniuses. The people who went that time were all peak characters of that era. Every one of them was a martial sage. According to my understanding, that should have been the last time. However, it seems like it was destroyed by someone in the end. That is why we are here in the ancient remnant. The more Xiaochen thought about it, the more terrifying the person who set it up became. Even a martial sage was toyed with in the palm of his hand. Xiaochen did not know who the person who destroyed it was. His cultivation was definitely not low. After Fatso muttered to himself for a while, he said, according to the situation of that era, there was only one person in the great Qin nation who could destroy this. Who? The Thunder King, Sang Mu. Kim Tae-ho enunciated every word clearly. The Thunder King was the last Emperor Wu of the great Qin nation. He was also the strongest person in the great Qin nation at that time. His whereabouts in his later years were a mystery. I believe that it is definitely related to this incident. Xiaochen was not astonished. In reality, his guess was the same as Fatso's. The wounds on the necks of those martial sages did indeed have traces of lightning. If Ao Jiao woke up in the future, Xiaochen could go and ask her. As the item spirit of the Thunderwood sword, she should know something. You seem to have forgotten about someone? Xiaochen did not continue on this topic and changed the topic. Kim Tae-ho smiled faintly and said, I know who you are talking about. Chu Chaoyun. I can only say that this person is very mysterious and very strong. It is best that you do not offend him. I cannot offend him. However, Xiaochen had a premonition in his heart that there would be a battle between him and Chu Chaoyun sooner or later. This was a kind of intuition that had no basis or reason. It was just a feeling that he had. After asking around, Xiaochen got up and prepared to leave. Fatso quickly pulled him back and said, Do you really not need me to help you escape? The people of the noble clans are all looking for you. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, There is no need. That's right, get someone to bring me some fish porridge. I have a use for it. Fatso called the waiter over to help Xiaochen with the fish porridge. Then he said, That's right. At this time, the people of the noble clans and the Jiang clan are all in Savage Forest. Whitewater City is much safer. However, I say, Brother Xiao, have you really forgotten something? Xiaochen felt somewhat suspicious as he asked, What is it? Fatso chuckled and took out a promissory note. He said, Brother Xiao, did you forget about this promissory note so quickly? Furthermore, it does not matter who you sell the treasures of the 4 noble clans to. If you sell them to me, I will forget about this debt. I actually forgot about this matter. Xiaochen thought for a while. He had no use for those things, so he took out all the battle armor, spirit weapons, ancient martial techniques, and medicinal pills from his universe ring. These treasures piled up like a small mountain on the small table. Fatso stared at them with wide eyes. After a while, he could not help but laugh loudly. After a while, Fatso noticed that Xiaochen was looking at him strangely. He quickly stopped laughing and said, I can't help it, I can't help it. That's right, aren't there still spirit stones? That is good stuff. Everyone in the 3 noble clans has quite a bit. This Fatso was extraordinarily greedy. Xiaochen said indifferently, Don't even think about spirit stones. I will sell these things to you. I will pay half with spirit stones and the other half with gold banknotes. Fatso's smiling face immediately turned bitter. He said, Brother Xiao, let me tell you this. Gold banknotes are easy to get, but spirit stones are not. Xiaochen thought for a while and said, In that case, I will exchange all of them for gold banknotes. However, it is best to settle everything tomorrow morning. After that, I will probably not appear in Dongming province again. Fatso knew Xiaochen's situation. He said, No problem. Here are 20 essence light arrows. Miss Xiao asked me to give them to you before she left. Xiaochen received the essence light arrows from Fatso. Suddenly, he thought of a problem. His expression changed. Damn fatso. Could it be that the essence light arrows from before were given to me by Su Xiao? Fatso smiled embarrassedly. He kept the things on the table and quickly ran out like a whirlwind. The answer to the question went without saying. Fatso had a guilty conscience. Early the next morning, Xiaochen received the 8 million taels of gold banknotes from Fatso and left Liushang Pavilion. 8 million taels of gold banknotes was a large sum of money. Even the annual income of the Whitewater City's Jiang clan was not that much. Not long after Xiaochen left Liushang Pavilion, he immediately felt a faintly discernible killing qi spreading around him. Xiaochen was startled and quickly extended his spiritual sense. The merchant who made the deal with the cultivator with the severed arm led a few martial grand masters and carefully followed behind Xiaochen. They hid themselves very well. If it were not for that strand of killing qi that he did not control well, Xiaochen would not have been able to discover them. Xiaochen smiled faintly and walked forward. When he arrived at a desolate alley, he immediately entered it. The group of people quickly followed him. The alley was a dead end. Even after the group of people walked to the end, they did not see Xiaochen's shadow. The leader could not help but curse. Where is he? Where did he run off to? Are the few of you looking for me? Xiaochen slowly descended from the air and blocked the exit of the alley. He smiled faintly. That person was stunned at first, but his face lit up with joy. He laughed loudly. We were just looking for you. You ran out yourself. Hand over all the spirit stones on you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Xiaochen's expression did not change. He smiled faintly. I don't seem to have any grudges with the few of you. There is no need to force me to my death. Chapter 131. The leader took out a spirit stone and smiled coldly. You even dare to cause trouble for our Jiang clan's business. You can only blame yourself for being blind. You are actually willing to pay an inferior grade spirit stone for a broken bell. Don't you understand the meaning of not flaunting one's wealth? Xiaochen's heart trembled. So these people are from the Jiang clan. No wonder they are so daring. He could not help but have a bad premonition. Xiaochen asked coldly, where is the cultivator with the broken arm from last night? That trash. Kill him. Leaving this kind of trash in this world is a burden. Buying his broken bell for 1,000 silver taels was already giving him a lot of face. To think he did not even want to sell it to me. So be it if I kill him, the leader said indifferently. Xiaochen was incomparably furious in his heart. So be it if I kill him. In the eyes of this group of people, what are human lives? Are they not even comparable to beasts? Cut the crap, kill him. The leader was already running out of patience. He opened his mouth to call for people to take down Xiaochen. However, before he could finish speaking, he saw a purple light flash in front of him. His body had already been cut into two. Fresh blood slowly flowed out of the lunar shadow saber. Xiaochen took out an old cloth and wiped the blood off. After a while, he shot out a few purple flames and burned the 5 corpses to ashes. Xiaochen used an hour to deal with the 5 inferior grade martial grand masters. With Xiaochen's current cultivation as a peak martial master, coupled with his rushing thunder saber technique and azure dragon cloud soaring art that were nearing great perfection, Xiaochen was able to deal with them easily. Unless one was at the peak of the martial grand master realm or possessed an inherited martial spirit or other secret treasures, they would not be able to last more than 10 moves against Xiaochen. After the rushing thunder saber technique was executed at full power, it was like the roar of thunder and lightning. Each move was stronger than the one before it. Killing enemies of higher cultivation realms was as easy as flipping a palm against those with weak willpower. It was as easy as chopping vegetables. After using his essence, Xiaochen's appearance returned to normal. This was the disadvantage of not reaching the small success stage of the shape-shifting technique. As long as he used his essence, he would immediately reveal his true form. The reason why I am where I am today is because Jiang Muheng ridiculed me at the start, forcefully robbing me. If it were not for the Jiang clan, I would not be treated like a street rat, wanted by the noble clans. If it were not for the Jiang clan, that cultivator with a severed arm would not have said that he was killed so casually after he was killed. Xiao Chen's eyes were bloodshot. According to Kim Taeho's information, the Jiang clan head and a few martial saint experts were currently searching for him in the forest. In other words, there were no martial saints in the Jiang residence. There was no one who could threaten him. There were too many injustices in this world. Xiao Chen did not want to care about them, nor was he willing to. However, this Jiang clan was too hateful, pestering him endlessly. In that case, I'll just kill them all, Xiao Chen thought to himself. He put on a black cloak and slowly walked towards the Jiang residence. The Jiang residence was located on a large street in the west of the city. It occupied an area of more than 1,000 square meters. The entrance to the Jiang residence was very grand. The steps were 10 meters tall, and there were 10 martial masters standing on each side. Together with 2 tall stone lions, it looked very impressive. Who is standing there sneakily? Don't you know this is the Jiang clan? If you don't scram, I'll break your legs. When the cultivators saw Xiao Chen standing in front of the Jiang residence in a black cloak, they shouted loudly. Xiao Chen removed his hood, revealing a sharp face. His face looked like it was carved with a knife. He released his killing intent without hiding it. He smiled faintly and said, "Do I not even have the right to stand here? It's Xiao Chen. Quickly kill him." The clan head said that if you kill him, he will immediately give you the position of an elder. Everyone immediately recognized Xiao Chen's appearance. 20 martial masters wielded sabers and charged at Xiao Chen with a strong killing intent. Suddenly, a boundless flame appeared in Xiao Chen's right eye. Finally, it turned into a purple light. Boom! The bodies of the 20 martial masters burst into flames. There were miserable cries. Before they could reach Xiao Chen, they turned into a pile of ashes. A cultivator who had opened the doors of the Jiang residence happened to see this scene. He immediately screamed in fright and closed the doors again. Half of the essence in his body had been exhausted. Xiao Chen took out an essence pill and swallowed it. 20 martial masters were not a threat to him. However, he did not want to drag this out. He had to end this quickly, before the noble clans arrived. Bang! Xiao Chen kicked the doors of the Jiang residence open. He had just taken 2 steps when he saw an old man holding a saber that flickered with a cold light. He led a group of cultivators over. The one leading them was the previous first elder of the Jiang clan, Jiang Yun's younger brother, Jiang Yueheng. He looked at Xiao Chen, who was slowly walking over. Jiang Yueheng's face was not alarmed. Instead, he revealed a ruthless expression as he said, "There is a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. Instead, you barge into hell. Today, I will skin you alive to take revenge for my big brother." Pu Ci. The reply he received was an essence light arrow flying at him. The arrow buzzed in the air as it streaked across the sky. It flew at lightning speed towards Jiang Yueheng's chest. Jiang Yueheng was startled. His big brother was shot to death by this essence light arrow. After that, he was nailed to the top of the city wall in humiliation. He was very clear about the speed of the essence light arrow and the might of the soul slayer bow. He did not dodge. He circulated his essence and held the saber in his hand across his chest. Boom! However, when the soul slayer bow was drawn with all his might, together with the essence light arrow, its speed was simply too fast. Even though he had calculated the position of the essence light arrow, he was still unable to block it. By the time he held the saber across his chest, the essence light arrow had already pierced through his chest. The huge force sent his body flying into the air. Finally, he was nailed to a high wall. Blood flowed out of his mouth continuously, and his eyes bulged so much that it looked terrifying. The surroundings were completely silent. When they saw Jiang Yueheng, who was showing off his might earlier, get nailed to the high wall the moment he finished speaking, they all took in a deep breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with incredulity. Xiao Chen put away the soul slayer bow and looked around. He did not give them any time to be astonished. He headed straight for the place with the most martial Grand Masters. The blue dragon cloud soaring art was executed to its limits. Xiao Chen moved as though he was flying on flat ground. He instantly arrived in the middle of the crowd. There was a thunderous roar as he executed drawing the saber. There was a flash of saber light, and a martial Grand Master was immediately chopped in half. The Jiang clan cultivators reacted and quickly surrounded Xiao Chen. The three cultivators behind them leaped into the air and hacked at Xiao Chen's back with their sabers. If he turned around to block, the momentum of the rushing thunder saber technique would be broken. Xiao Chen did not bother with them. Arc light chop. A 2-meter-long purple arc of electricity streaked across the air. One of the three martial Grand Masters in front could not dodge in time. He was chopped in half by the arc light, and half of his body was chopped off. Electricity leaped about in the arc light, and a shockwave spread out. The cultivators who wanted to surround Xiao Chen were immediately knocked back. Bang! 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 There were 3 muffled sounds as the 3 sabers on Xiao Chen's back hacked down violently. The qi infused into the sabers immediately tore the clothes on Xiao Chen's back into pieces. The 3 people's faces lit up with joy as they shouted, "Put in more effort. Chop this brat down." The sabers hacked down on the battle armor. Although the battle armor blocked the sabers, it could not block the qi infused into the sabers. When the 3 qi infused into Xiao Chen's body, even though his body was strong, his internal organs were still shaken. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Rushing heaven chop. Xiao Chen did not care about the attacks behind him. He pushed off the ground and turned into a beam of light. He soared into the sky and instantly pierced through the chests of the 6 martial Grand Masters in front of him. Blood immediately filled the sky and landed on Xiao Chen's body, dyeing him like a demon. The instant he left the ground, there was a clap of thunder behind him. The 3 martial Grand Masters who sneak attacked him immediately exploded into a pile of meat paste. Hu Qi. Xiao Chen suddenly turned around in the air and paused for a moment. Blood dyed his black clothes red. His aura rose to its peak, and the people below trembled in fear. Rushing thunder chop. Boundless thunder resounded behind him like a huge wave. Each wave was higher than the one before, causing his aura to rise to an untouchable level. Bang! A martial Grand Master below used his saber to block. The spirit weapon in his hand was immediately chopped in half. The lunar shadow saber slashed down from above. There was a loud explosion, and the Jiang clan martial Grand Master's corpse that was chopped in half exploded to the sides. Rushing thunder second chain chop. The boundless thunder suddenly stopped. Heaven and earth became incomparably quiet. Suddenly, the lunar shadow saber lit up with a resplendent electric light, forming a long electric light. Hu Qi. A huge whirlpool formed around Xiao Chen's body. Countless electric lights leaped around in the whirlpool. A few Jiang clan cultivators rushed over, trying to break this horrifying whirlpool. A resplendent electric light soared into the sky and a boundless qi wave spread out in all directions. It immediately sent a few cultivators rushing over flying. Boom! Xiao Chen shouted loudly. The lunar shadow saber carried a boundless electric light as it hacked the ground violently. In an instant, dust flew up into the air. The stone tiles on the ground were sent flying, floating in the air. Miserable cries resounded. Many people were turned into ashes by the electric light. There were also some people who were sent flying by the stone tiles, vomiting blood as their bodies flew backward. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and stood straight. He looked around coldly. There was still an endless stream of cultivators rushing over. It seemed like there was no end to killing them. He waved his hand and a golden statue appeared in the air. Boom! The Golden Lion King's mountain-like body appeared in the Jiang residence. It stomped on the ground and immediately crushed a few Jiang clan cultivators who were not able to dodge in time. The force was too great, a hole appeared in the ground. Xiao Chen controlled the Golden Lion King to spit out golden flames continuously. The Jiang residence was instantly set ablaze. When the Golden Lion King was in the ancient remnant, even the martial saints of the noble clans could not do anything to it. How could the martial grand masters and martial masters of the Jiang clan deal with it? Originally, Xiaochen did not want to use the Golden Lion King. However, there were too many reckless cultivators in the Jiang clan. They all wanted to take down his head and exchange it for boundless wealth. When the mountain-like Golden Lion King appeared, no one could block it. Everywhere it passed, the cultivators screamed and fled. However, they could not avoid being crushed into paste or burned to ashes. The Jiang clan head and a few martial saints were not here. Furthermore, their leader, Jiang Yueheng, was killed in an instant. Now that the Golden Lion King appeared in an undefeatable manner, their fighting spirit immediately crumbled. Chapter 132. They all started to flee the Jiang residence. Xiaochen extended out his spiritual sense and ignored the cultivators fleeing for their lives. He wanted to find the Jiang clan's hidden treasure trove. There were sounds of fighting coming from a pavilion on the west side of the Jiang residence. Occasionally, people would run out with large piles of gold, silver, and jewels, rushing out of the government office. With a great calamity looming over them, the Jiang clan cultivators were thrown into confusion. This was clearly the Jiang clan's hidden treasure trove. Xiaochen laughed gently and stood on the Golden Lion King's back as it flew away. A cool breeze blew past as Xiaochen's blood-stained hair fluttered in the wind. Along the way, he crushed countless pavilions and walls, leaving behind ruins. When the Jiang clan cultivators in the hidden treasure trove saw Xiaochen's figure, they were startled. Before Xiaochen got close, they had already scattered. Xiaochen jumped down and gave the Golden Lion King a berserk command. After that, he ignored it. After using it this time, the Golden Lion King would immediately shatter. There was no way to save it. Walking to the hidden treasure trove, Xiaochen swallowed another qi-returning pill. Then, he extended his spiritual sense out. All the scenes within the vicinity appeared in his mind. A secret room at the bottom of the treasury attracted Xiaochen's attention. Relying on the guidance of his spiritual sense, Xiaochen passed through countless secret passages and secret compartments. He quickly arrived at the secret room below. A huge stone door blocked the way. It was clear there was a mechanism there. The stone floor was about 2 meters thick. Xiaochen could not be bothered to look for the mechanism. He condensed a strand of purple flame on his fingertip. The purple flame spun continuously. Every time it spun, Xiaochen's essence would be depleted rapidly. Shoot! Xiaochen shouted and the spinning purple thunder true fire shot out. It left a trail of flames in the air as it struck the stone floor. There was a loud sound and a large hole immediately appeared on the stone floor. Cracks spread out in all directions. After Xiaochen refined the purple thunder true fire several times, its penetrative power was no longer the same as before. Seeing the hole in the stone floor, Xiaochen raised his leg and kicked the stone floor into pieces. Xiaochen entered the secret room in a flash. There were rows of sandalwood boxes on the ground. Xiaochen casually opened one of the boxes and a golden light shone. It was filled with gold, silver, jewels, jades, and pearls. Xiaochen smiled faintly and swept his universe ring. He stored all the boxes in it. There were 20 boxes of treasures. He did not let go of any of them. Xiaochen looked at the shelves at the side. The items on the shelves were well organized. One row was medicinal pills, one row was spirit weapons, and one row was martial techniques and battle armor. On the last shelf, Xiaochen saw a row of inferior-grade spirit stones. There were more than 200 of them. Above the spirit stones, there were more than 100 essence light arrows. Xiaochen was overjoyed. He could not be bothered to count them. He swept his universe ring and stored everything in it. Even so, Xiaochen spent more than 10 minutes before he emptied the entire secret room. Hu Qi. Before Xiaochen left, he set fire to the remaining shelves in the secret room. Then, he quickly left. The Golden Lion King ran amok in the Jiang residence. Flames flew everywhere. In its berserk state, it was like a huge destructive machine. The entire Jiang residence was in a state of chaos and raging flames. Xiao Chen looked into the distance. 4 warships were flying over quickly. The people of the various noble clans had received the news and were rushing over. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and a silver warship flew out from his right eye. He leaped onto the bow and turned into a silver bolt of lightning, leaving quickly. Not long after Xiao Chen left, a black warship stopped in front of the Jiang residence. The Jiang clan's clan head, Jiang Mingxuan, looked at the Jiang residence, which was now in ruins. He had a desolate expression on his face. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Jiang Mingxuan said with a pale complexion, "We have let down our ancestors. Hundreds of years of foundation is gone just like that. Clan head, quickly go to the hidden treasure pavilion and take a look. As long as the Jiang clan's hundreds of years of accumulation is still there is no need to worry about not having a chance to make a comeback," a consecrated elder of the Jiang clan behind Jiang Mingxuan said. Jiang Mingxuan reacted and said loudly, "Right. Right. There is also the hidden treasure pavilion. My Jiang clan has accumulated for hundreds of years. There are tens of millions of gold taels and countless medicinal pills, spirit weapons, and battle armor. We will definitely be able to make a comeback." It was like he had found a life-saving straw. He led the people behind him and quickly ran towards the hidden treasure pavilion. On the black warship, Ji Changkong looked expressionlessly at the small silver warship that was disappearing into the distance. He said ruthlessly, "Disregard the expenditure of spirit stones and chase after him." The black warship was like a specter, disappearing from its original spot. In front of it, the ice bird under the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace gave off a resounding cry as it chased after Xiao Chen. A large group of cultivators gathered in front of the Jiang residence. When they saw the blazing Jiang residence, all sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. Everyone knew that the Jiang clan was finished this time. They were completely destroyed by a superior grade martial master. Such a large Jiang clan was actually destroyed by a superior grade martial master. This is unbelievable. Indeed. This Xiao Chen is too decisive. He took advantage of the time when all the martial saints of the Jiang clan had left to kill his way in. His boldness is indescribable. Do you think that the Jiang clan still has a chance to rise again? It is impossible. In the past few years, the Jiang clan has offended many people. Many martial grand masters died in the ancient remnant. Now that their foundation has been destroyed, they are completely destroyed. This is great. When that bastard son of his was still alive, this old man suffered a lot. The crowd discussed this. The Jiang clan, which had been glorious in Whitewater City for hundreds of years, was gone, just like that. They could not help but feel it was a pity. However, there were even more people who rejoiced in their hearts. They had an expression of schadenfreude on their faces. Gone. Everything is gone. In the secret room of the hidden treasure pavilion, Jiang Mingxuan looked at the empty room filled with ashes. There was nothing in the secret room, and he spoke in a crazed manner. High up in the sky, Xiao Chen rode on the silver warship. He sped through the clouds, moving as fast as lightning. The clouds moved past him quickly. Xiao Chen stood at the bow of the warship. His hair fluttered in the wind. When Xiao Chen turned his head and saw the profound ice palace chasing after him, he smiled faintly. He recalled the silver warship into his eyes and descended from the sky. Xiao Chen's body turned into a meteor, and after a while, he landed on the ground with a loud bang. His figure completely disappeared from the profound ice palace's sight. Half a month later, the various noble clans doubled the bounty on Xiao Chen's head once again. When the news came out, there was an uproar. The name Xiao Chen became known to everyone in the great Qin nation. He became the topic of conversation after meals. There were many discussions about Xiao Chen's identity. There were also countless versions of how he became enemies with the various noble clans. In Liushan Pavilion, Kim Tae-ho cursed, "What a beast! This fat lord only dares to occasionally take a few pieces of meat from him. This brat actually wiped out the Jiang clan in one go." A manservant ran over with a stack of contracts in his hands. He smiled at Kim Tae-ho and said, "Young master, the territories of the Jiang clan have all been bought out. The city lord's seal has already been stamped on them." What surprised the manservant was that Fatso did not have a pleased smile on his face. He slowly received the contracts and said, "Boring, there is no challenge at all. This fat lord is not a normal failure." The manservant did not understand and asked, "How can that be?" "Young master, you bought all these restaurants and refineries at a price that was practically zero." Fatso cursed, "What do you know? That brat took all the money. That was money and banknotes. Just thinking about it makes me sad. If I had known earlier, this fat lord would have done it myself." On a mountain in the Misty Sword sect, Chu Chaoyun stood at the summit. When he heard the news, he smiled faintly. A gentle breeze blew and his clothes fluttered, making him look like he was floating in the morning. A delicate and pretty girl carrying a sword on her back leaped over from the foot of the mountain. Her figure was exquisite, like a dancing butterfly. Soon, she arrived behind Chu Chaoyun and said, "Senior brother, the sect master wants to see you in the Great Hall." When Chu Chaoyun saw this girl, he revealed a gentle smile. He nodded gently and followed her down the mountain. After another half a month, another piece of important news came out. Xiao Chen had invested 20 million gold taels in the Flying Snow Manor. As long as someone could kill a noble clan disciple, they could go to the Flying Snow Manor and receive 1,000 gold taels. The higher the rank of the person killed, the higher the reward. If one killed a noble clan heir or someone of equal status, they could receive 5 million gold taels and a medial grade spirit stone. 3 years later, I will personally kill my way to the noble clans that placed bounties on me. I will not go back on my word. Accompanying this piece of news was Xiao Chen's declaration to the various noble clans. The Flying Snow Manor was an assassin organization spread across the entire continent. Aside from the assassins in the manor, some cultivators could also go to the manor to issue or accept missions. However, since the founding of the Great Qin nation, the Flying Snow Manor had never received such a large number of missions before. Not only was there 20 million gold taels, there was also a rare medial grade spirit stone. It was hard not to be tempted. When the news came out, the world was thrown into an uproar. No one had expected that someone would dare to challenge the noble clans at the same time. These noble clans had existed since the time of the Tianwu dynasty. They had innate bloodlines and inherited martial spirits. Some of them had even existed for tens of thousands of years. Their strength was extremely horrifying. Now, there was an insignificant superior grade martial master who dared to challenge them. This made people feel that the world had changed. Dongming Province, Dongming City, this was the center of the entire Dongming Province. It was also one of the most bustling cities in the Great Qin nation. The streets were bustling with people and the sounds of people hawking their wares could be heard. Xiao Chen turned into an ordinary-looking youth and slowly walked on the streets. In the past month or so, Xiao Chen had not seen anyone. Aside from making a trip to the Flying Snow Manor, he spent the rest of his time practicing the shape-shifting spell. After a month of bitter practice, he was finally able to use essence without exposing his appearance. If he wanted to reach the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in the Shiha province, the fastest way would be to fly there. However, in the Dongming province, only Dongming City had a relay station that could cross 2 prefectures. Actually, Xiao Chen could use the silver warship to fly to the Shiha province. Its speed would not be slower than the spirit beasts at the relay station. However, there was a very awkward problem. Xiao Chen did not know the way. He did not have any coordinates in the sky. Chapter 133. If Xiao Chen just blindly flew according to the map, he might not be able to fly out of Dongming province in his lifetime. The difference between flying in the sky and on the ground was too great. The maps on the ground could not be used in the sky. The flying relay station of Dongming province was a huge plaza. There were many huge flying spirit beasts in the plaza. Xiao Chen walked straight to the ticket office and spent 1,000 gold taels to buy the most expensive ticket. With such a ticket, he could ride on a spirit beast alone and not have to squeeze with others. Not only was it comfortable, it was also much faster. Xiaochen took the ticket and walked to a stone platform in the middle of the plaza. There were 3 huge golden eagles on the stone platform. The golden eagles were rank 5 flying spirit beasts. Among the rank 5 spirit beasts, they were the fastest. They were almost at the limit of what humans could tame. In the Great Tang Nation's beast taming abode, there was a rumor that they could tame rank 7 flying spirit beasts. However, no one knew if this rumor was true or not. Xiaochen paid the ticket and went to the stone platform. Of the 3 golden eagles, only one had a rider sitting on it. Xiaochen did not think too much about it and walked over. The rider wore a long gray robe and a hood on his head. It made it difficult to see his figure and face. After Xiaochen sat on it, the golden eagle immediately cried out loudly. It flapped its wings and created a strong gust of wind as it rose from the ground. The golden eagle quickly flew to an altitude of 1,000 meters. The rider suddenly took off the hood on his head and turned to look at Xiaochen. He smiled gently and said, "Brother Xiao, it has been a long time." When Xiaochen saw this person's appearance clearly, he was startled and nearly fell off the golden eagle. He did not expect to meet the person in front of him here. He could not figure out how this person recognized him. "Feng Feishue, why are you here? How did you recognize me?" Xiaochen said in astonishment. He did not expect to see her here. Feng Feishue tossed the hood in her hand into the air and smiled faintly. Her pretty face bloomed like a flower as she said, "I came to send you off. No matter what you look like, I will be able to find you in the crowd." After Xiaochen recovered from his astonishment, he revealed a relaxed smile. He could not help but feel surprised in his heart as he asked, "Cousin Yulan and the rest went to the Heavenly Qin School?" Feng Feishue changed her posture and turned around completely. She was now closer to Xiaochen. She revealed a mischievous smile and said, "We have arrived. Everything should be going smoothly. She told me to tell you to take care of yourself. She will come and look for you in 4 years." When Xiaochen heard this, his heart skipped a beat. Cousin Yulan would look for him in 4 years. He could not help but ask himself if it was too heartless for him to just leave like that. He could not help but ask himself if he was too heartless when it came to relationships between men and women. Although he was stupid, he could clearly feel that Cousin Yulan's feelings for him surpassed that of a normal relationship. However, in his heart, he had never set the Shao clan as his final destination. He had already made up his mind long ago that he would leave the Shao clan sooner or later. He did not want to leave behind any worries or restraints when he left. Thinking of this, Xiaochen could not help but smile bitterly. Back then, he had left in a carefree manner. However, could the people and the matters there be forgotten so easily? Humans were not plants or trees, how could they be emotionless? Who would truly not understand emotions? Who would truly like to be alone, to be enemies with the world, to be filled with killing intent at every step? Feng Feishue stretched out her hand. There was a recommendation letter in her lily-white hand. She said, "The annual examination of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has already passed. If you want to enter the inner sect, you will have to enter step by step from the outer sect. It will take a lot of time. This recommendation letter should be able to help you, right?" Xiaochen did not stretch out his hand to receive it. He looked straight into Feng Feishue's eyes, as though he wanted to see through her. After a while, he muttered to himself, "Feng Feishue, I think it is time for you to tell me everything. What is your relationship with my Shao clan? Why are you taking care of me?" From the first time Xiaochen met Feng Feishue at Regretful Iron, Feng Feishue had sold the Blue Dragon medicine cauldron to him at a low price. Every time they met, Feng Feishue would intentionally or unintentionally express her goodwill. Xiaochen did not believe that there would be people in this world who would be nice to you for no reason. Unless that person was your relative. Even if it was a relative, only parents would be nice to their children without asking for anything. When Feng Feishue heard this, she smiled faintly. "Is this important? If you want to know, you can go to the imperial capital at any time. You will find your answer there." Xiaochen felt suspicious. "Why must I go to the imperial capital? Can't you tell me now?" Feng Feishue smiled tactfully, as the saying goes, words have no proof. I can make up a reason now, and you will not be able to find any flaws in it. There are some things that, if you do not go to the imperial capital, I will not be able to explain it to you. The person involved will explain it to you. That would be the most reasonable. Xiao Chen frowned as he carefully thought about the meaning of Feng Feishue's words. It was very complicated, like a spider's web. There was no way for him to make sense of it. The meaning of Feng Feishue's words was still unfathomable. Why must he go to the imperial capital? Is there anyone in the imperial capital that is worth meeting? Feng Feishue stuffed the recommendation letter into Xiao Chen's hands and said, "No matter what you think, it does not matter if I am repaying a favor or paying a debt. The Feng clan will never force you on anything. Even if the world does not accept you, the doors of the Feng clan will always be open to you. I will send you here. I cannot really go to Shiha province, although I really want to be with you. Goodbye. The Golden Eagle will send you there on its own, there is no need to worry." Feng Feishue smiled, leaving behind a melodious laughter that lingered in the air. She jumped down from the Golden Eagle's back, and a fiery red lotus flower bloomed under her feet, carrying her into the distance. Xiao Chen looked at the recommendation letter in his hands, then at the distant Feng Feishue. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. In the end, I am still confused. However, it is still good to know the news of cousin Yulan. The Golden Eagle continued flying in the air. Xiao Chen was somewhat bored, so he took out the exquisite copper bell that he bought the previous time. He had been practicing the shape-shifting technique for the past month and had forgotten about this copper bell. Holding the copper bell in his hand, Xiao Chen gently knocked on it. The copper bell gave off a melodious sound. The sound was very pleasant to the ear, but there was nothing strange about it. This was a secret treasure, Xiao Chen was certain of it. Unfortunately, the formations and daos within it were all damaged. The space within the secret treasure was chaotic. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was unable to enter it. The last time he tried to probe it, he suffered a heavy blow. This caused Xiao Chen to not dare to try it casually. Since Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was unable to enter, he was unable to find out the extent of the damage to the formations. Thus, he did not know how to repair it. This copper bell should be a very strong secret treasure. It was a pity that it met with such a situation. Suddenly, an intense cold wind blew in front of Xiao Chen. That cold wind instantly turned into a horrifying whirlwind. He could faintly make out the figure of a white dragon. Whistling sounds came from within, like countless people shouting. Pu ci. Suddenly, an intense wind blew from high in the sky. Xiao Chen, who was thinking about the copper bell, did not notice it. By the time he reacted, the wind had already swept him off the Golden Eagle. What's going on? Xiao Chen was alarmed. This wind was very strong. When Xiao Chen was swept up in it, he could not circulate his essence at all. He struggled futilely in the air, drifting left and right. Xiao Chen's body was tossed high up in the air and then thrown down in the next moment. It was like he was flying in the clouds, going up and down. He could not resist at all. The cold wind was bone-chilling. When Xiao Chen felt it, it felt like he was being cut by a knife. It was incomparably painful. Xiao Chen cried out in alarm. However, under the power of nature, he could not resist at all. In the cold wind, Xiao Chen's body kept swaying. He saw a pair of cold eyes filled with boundless resentment. It turned into a cold wind that drilled into his mind. When the Golden Eagle saw the situation, it let out a sharp cry. It circled in the air and rushed towards the wind, trying to catch Xiao Chen. However, the tacit understanding between Xiao Chen and the Golden Eagle was insufficient. The Golden Eagle's huge body carried a huge force as it broke through the wind and smashed into Xiao Chen's body. The dizzy Xiao Chen was in an even more precarious situation when he was hit. The Golden Eagle knocked Xiao Chen out of the wind. Xiao Chen, who was in the air, could not circulate his essence smoothly. He fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. It's over. I actually met with a white dragon storm. I won't fall to my death, right? Xiao Chen turned pale with fright. He wanted to release the silver worship from his spiritual sense. However, the strange cold qi in the air had already invaded Xiao Chen's mind. Just as he used his spiritual sense, an intense pain came from his mind. It was like countless steel needles pierced his mind. It was extremely painful, preventing him from concentrating. The so-called White Dragon storm was a high-altitude storm that frequently appeared in the sky between Dongming Province and Shihe Province. The formation of this storm had always been a mystery. In the distant legends, a strong white dragon once died in battle in this sky during the ancient era. After the white dragon died, its dragon soul did not disperse. It kept roaming the sky. The storm was also formed by the white dragon. Because someone once saw a huge white dragon in the storm, this storm was called the White Dragon Storm. On the way here, Xiao Chen had already heard of the legend of the White Dragon Storm. However, he did not take it to heart. This was because although the White Dragon Storm was horrifying, it had not appeared for decades. He did not expect his luck to be so bad. On the ground, a clear river appeared before Xiao Chen's eyes. This caused his originally despaired face to reveal a trace of joy. However, the pain in his mind became more intense. A boundless essence filled his chest. This resentment seemed to have lasted for tens of thousands of years. It was like a 500-kilogram boulder was pressing on his heart. He felt like he was suffocating. There was a loud plop and Xiao Chen's body fell from a height of several kilometers. He fell straight into the water. Falling from such a high place, even on the soft water surface, produced a huge impact. Even though Xiao Chen's physical body was extremely strong, his internal organs still churned. He vomited a mouthful of blood and fainted with a pale complexion. Chapter 134. Xiao Chen's body slowly sank into the river and flowed downstream. The blue dragon was fond of water. The instant Xiao Chen fainted, it automatically breathed in and out. Hence, Xiao Chen did not drown in the river. This continued for 3 days. The resentment in Xiao Chen's mind did not disappear. Hence, he did not wake up and continue to struggle with the resentment. Finally, Xiao Chen's body flowed to the bottom of a pool and stopped flowing. There was a special cold qi in the cold pool. Xiao Chen lay at the bottom of the pool. The cold qi flowed through his skin and entered Xiao Chen's body. This cold qi was different from the cold qi in the White Dragon Burst. It was not as tyrannical. Instead, it calmed one down. Under the nourishment of this cold qi, Xiao Chen slowly opened his eyes. However, the resentment in his mind did not disappear. It tortured him continuously, causing him incomparable pain and preventing him from moving. Xiao Chen felt like he was going crazy. Countless roars resounded in his mind. That white dragon seemed to be roaring beside his ear. He could not get rid of it, he could not kill it. Xiao Chen did his best to calm himself down. He slowly circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, hoping that it could resist this strange feeling. After a while, the essence slowly circulated in his body. The feeling in Xiao Chen's mind improved significantly. He could not help but rejoice. Pu ci. Just as Xiao Chen was about to relax, the pain in his mind suddenly increased by several times. It was so painful that he wanted to cry out. However, he could not open his mouth in the water. The essence in his body immediately went out of control. The essence started to circulate chaotically in his meridians. Some of the essence even started to flow uncontrollably in the opposite direction. A horrifying phrase appeared in Xiao Chen's mind: berserking qi deviation. To every cultivator, berserking qi deviation was a calamity. It was a phrase that would cause one's expression to change at the mention of it. If one could not find a reasonable solution, one's cultivation would be severely damaged. In serious cases, one's life would be in danger. With Xiao Chen's current realm, the term qi deviation could be said to be completely out of his reach. As of now, he was only a superior grade martial master. Many of the meridians in his body had not been opened yet. The routes for his essence to circulate were limited. He did not meet the requirements for qi deviation at all. Normally, Qi deviation would only occur when one's cultivation had reached the late-stage martial honor realm and more than half of the meridians in one's body had been opened. But because of the extremely strange resentment in his mind, it caused the true Qi in his body to circulate chaotically, causing his meridians to flow in the opposite direction and go out of control. This was obviously the prelude to Qi deviation. Xiao Qin was very anxious, but the pain in his head prevented him from concentrating. There was nothing he could do about the chaotic essence in his body. Pu. At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped down from the water. Xiao Qin saw a blurry figure through the hazy water. It was a beautiful naked body swimming wantonly on the water surface. Xiao Qin, who had never seen such a scene before, was immediately captivated. His attention instantly became focused. After Xiao Qin focused, the chaotic essence in his body started to slowly calm down. This surprised Xiao Qin. He circulated the purple thunder divine incantation once again and the pain in his head started to slowly disappear. Hua la la. Water splashed and the girl on the surface of the water slowly swam down with her eyes closed. Xiao Qin was astonished. The direction in which the girl swam down was right in front of him. As the distance got closer, the hazy feeling in the water slowly disappeared. The beautiful body of the girl appeared clearly in front of him. Disappointingly, a certain part of Xiao Qin's body had a reaction. Who? Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes. At the bottom of the pool, Xiao Qin and the girl were almost facing each other. They looked at each other in astonishment. For a moment, everything was silent. It was like the world was left with the sound of their heartbeats. The two of them just looked at each other without doing anything. The girl suddenly reacted. Her face flushed red and the ring on her right hand flickered. Suddenly, a slender saber about 2 fingers wide appeared in her hand. The saber gave off heat and the river water instantly evaporated. Countless bubbles rose from the pool. Boom! The water around her did not seem to be able to stop her movements. The saber moved quickly in the water, heading for Xiao Qin's neck. Xiao Qin was startled. Under the threat of death, his body, which could not move, suddenly dodged to the side. The saber split the water apart and struck the mud at the bottom of the pool, creating a large bubble. The girl's body was as agile as a fish in the water. In an instant, she caught up to Xiao Qin and sent another saber strike at him. Now that he could move again, Xiao Qin immediately executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. He was like a flood dragon, leaping out of the water with a so sound. When the fresh air hit him, Xiao Qin took a deep breath. Pu tong. After that, the girl's body also leaped out of the water, creating a large splash. The splash of water was like a saber strike at Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin did not dare to receive it head-on. He pushed off the water and landed firmly on the shore. The girl took advantage of this opportunity to grab the clothes on the shore. She quickly put them on in midair. By the time she landed, she was completely dressed, completely covering her body. When all the splashes of water fell into the pool, the surface of the water had calmed down. Xiao Qin finally saw the girl's appearance. Her long, wet, black hair flowed down her back. She wore a fiery red dress. Her voluptuous figure stood proudly on top of her exquisite figure. Her skin was as smooth as jade. She was like a lotus that had just emerged from the water, untainted by a speck of dust. This was a girl with a devilish figure and an angelic face. However, the girl was incomparably furious. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes looked like they were about to spit fire. Her red lips moved slightly, and a melodious voice came from her peach-like mouth. Damn perverted thief, you actually dared to peek at this lady bathing. The saber in her hand trembled slightly, giving off a melodious sound. It was as though it felt the anger of its owner. It could not stop shaking, and there were countless echoes in the air. Listening to the sword and communicating with it, Xiao Qin was incomparably astonished. This girl was actually the same as Ao Jiao. Her comprehension of weapons had also reached the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it. This was a state that many martial kings could only dream of. However, the current situation did not give Xiao Qin any time to be astonished. This was because the girl had already crossed the water with the saber in her hand. In an instant, she arrived before him. A resplendent light lit up on the saber. This was a technique that only martial grandmasters could grasp. Essence infused into the saber, forming a saber light. Drawing the saber. Xiaochen quickly drew his saber. The lunar shadow saber clashed with the saber light sent out by the girl. There was a loud sound, and the huge force contained in the saber light sent Xiaochen flying. Xiaochen was incomparably astonished. This was the first time he had been defeated by a martial grandmaster in terms of strength. Furthermore, it was under the situation of him drawing the saber. Who? Executing the blue dragon cloud soaring art, Xiaochen's body paused strangely in the air. Then, he moved backward from a different angle. In a certain sense, this girl had saved Xiaochen's life. However, Xiaochen had no way of explaining it to her. The girl was currently in a fit of anger, so she would not be able to explain it clearly. For now, he would have to bear the title of perverted thief. He could only explain it to her in the future. Boom! Just when Xiaochen thought that he would be able to shake off the girl by executing the blue dragon cloud soaring art, he discovered that the girl had appeared behind him like a ghost. A horrifying saber light hacked at him once again. Although Xiaochen was astonished, he did not panic. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. His figure soared through the air, moving left and right. He was like a soaring blue dragon, dancing on the ground. Boom! 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 However, the girl's body was like rubber, sticking to Xiaochen's back. The horrifying saber light hacked at him continuously. There were a few times when he was nearly struck by the saber light. Damn perverted thief! If you have the guts, then stand still and fight to the death with this lady. If you are a man, then don't run, the girl scolded loudly as she attacked. When the saber light landed on the ground, it formed many small ravines. If one looked carefully, they would discover that these ravines seemed to have a strange charm to them. Xiaochen walked for a few hundred meters, but he was still unable to shake off the girl's figure. He suddenly thought of one of the 6 secret techniques of the battle sage origins, sticky character technique. No matter how fast the opponent was, as long as he used the sticky character technique, he would be able to catch up to the opponent. It was the most miraculous movement technique in the world. Xiaochen could not help but be alarmed. If that was really the case, then he would not be able to shake off this girl unless his blue dragon cloud soaring art reached great perfection. This won't do, she will catch up to me sooner or later, Xiaochen thought anxiously in his heart. After dodging another saber light, an idea appeared in his mind. Xiaochen suddenly turned around quickly and looked at the girl. He said, "Look into my eyes." The girl's saber paused. It was obvious that she was stunned by Xiaochen's sudden action. Who? A purple flame suddenly shot out from Xiaochen's right eye. Bastard! When the saber light shot out, the girl was shocked for a moment. Then, she immediately swung her saber at the purple flame. A huge explosion resounded, forming a surging shockwave. The girl was forced back. When the shockwave scattered, Xiaochen had already executed the lightning evasion. He leaped a few hundred meters and summoned the silver warship, soaring into the sky. When the young girl thought of Xiaochen's earlier action, she could not help but scold herself for being foolish. He asked you to look, and you just look. You could have just chopped him to death. Why are you wasting your breath on him? I have offended you today. I will definitely repay you for saving my life in the future. Furthermore, I am really not a perverted thief. I hope you do not misunderstand. Xiaochen's voice came from high up in the sky. The girl stomped her feet angrily. Her face turned red as she watched Xiaochen leave. She scolded, "You still say you are not a perverted thief? Even your warship is silver. With one look, I can tell you are not a good person. Miss, what's wrong? Are you all right?" Not long after Xiaochen left, 2 female martial saints rushed over. The girl looked in the direction that Xiaochen left in and said, "I'm fine. I just met a scoundrel." Xiao Chen piloted the silver warship and flew in the sky. He did not hear what the girl said. Otherwise, he would have dyed the silver warship a new color. Not long after, Xiao Chen saw a large road and stopped. Now, many people knew that Xiao Chen had a silver warship. It was better not to use it unless it was necessary. Chapter 135. I wonder where this place is and if I have reached Shiha province, Xiao Chen said as he landed firmly on the ground and looked at the empty road. Xiao Chen looked at the road carefully. There were clear footprints and car tracks on the road. This meant that there were many people on this road, it was just that there was no one there at the moment. After carefully checking the condition of his body and confirming that there were no major problems, Xiao Chen then walked forward. The earlier experience was still fresh in his mind, causing him to be fearful. He did not dare to be careless. Why did he meet the white dragon storm that had not appeared for decades? Xiao Chen could not figure out what was going on. The overwhelming resentment in his mind and the unforgettable pain made him feel that this was not a coincidence. White dragon, blue dragon. Could there be a connection between the two? Xiao Chen thought suspiciously in his heart. He had not completely grasped the blue dragon martial spirit in his body. He did not know what use it had. Seeing that there was no one around, Xiao Chen stopped. With a thought, the blue dragon martial spirit in his body slowly swam out of his dantian. It followed the meridians and headed for Xiao Chen's arm. Everywhere it passed, Xiao Chen felt a horrifying energy. Who? Under Xiao Chen's control, the tiny blue dragon martial spirit came out and circled above Xiao Chen's palm. After a cultivator reached the martial master realm, they could let their martial spirit leave their body. In battle, they could achieve unexpected results. However, after the martial spirit left their body, if they were injured, they could become a cripple. Unless it was the last resort, no cultivator would release their martial spirit. Unless a cultivator reached the martial king realm and cultivated their martial spirit to an immortal level, even if it was destroyed outside the body, it could be recovered immediately. Xiao Chen looked at the tiny blue dragon circling in his hand. He could not understand it no matter how he thought about it. Aside from the energy you provide me and being stronger than normal martial spirits, I can't see any difference between you, an ancient holy beast, and other martial spirits. Shaking his head, Xiao Chen recollected his thoughts. He recalled the blue dragon martial spirit back into his body and stopped thinking about this problem. The blue dragon martial spirit had been lost for 1,000 years. It was impossible to understand it immediately. There was no point in thinking about it. Xiao Chen continued walking forward. After an hour, he finally met a passerby. He quickly asked this passerby where he was and whether he had reached Shiha province. The person held a sword in his hand and was dressed in white without a speck of dust. He answered without turning his head, Shiha province, Yuluo continent, Yunyang County City. Xiao Chen ignored the attitude of this person. He recalled the map he saw in the past. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was located in the Yuluo continent. It was not far from Yunyang City. Even on foot, it would only take 2 weeks. Joy appeared on Xiao Chen's face as he extended his spiritual sense in a straight line. Finally, he saw a majestic city at the end of his spiritual sense. There were 2 bold words, Yunyang, written on the city gates. It had an ancient charm to it. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and pushed off the ground with his feet. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and kicked up a cloud of dust. Xiao Chen dashed forward and caught up to the person who spoke earlier in the blink of an eye. He overtook him like the wind, kicking up a large cloud of dust. I did not expect him to be an expert, the white-clothed person said indifferently as he looked in the direction Xiao Chen left. This person did not seem to make any movements, but when the dust landed on his clothes, it automatically slid off. The white-clothed person slowly walked out of the cloud of dust. His white clothes were not tainted by a speck of dust. Xiao Chen felt a strong gaze sweep past him. Then, it quickly disappeared. When he turned his head back, he did not discover anything. He only saw the cloud of dust he kicked up as he dashed forward. Yunyang City was already in front of him. Xiao Chen slowed down and slowly walked to the city gates. However, he discovered that there were many young girls standing in front of the city gates. They stood there like orioles. It was a different kind of scenery when he looked around. Is this the custom of Yunyang City? Xiao Chen said with some doubts. There were so many girls. It was likely that all the young girls in Yunyang City were here. When the group of girls saw Xiao Chen's figure, they were pleasantly surprised and quickly ran over. When they saw Xiao Chen's appearance, all of their faces were filled with disappointment. They cursed and left. Xiao Chen felt it was strange. When the guard at the city gates saw the situation, he smiled and said, "Don't be angry. The girls have been waiting for an entire morning. It is hard to avoid their temper." Xiao Chen paid the entrance tax. When he heard this, he could not help but find it funny. This was very similar to the girls who chased after idols in his previous life. He did not expect there to be such things in this world. He could not help but ask curiously, who is so charming that all the girls in Yunyang City came out to welcome him? The guard at the city gates looked at Xiao Chen in astonishment and said, "You don't even know about this? Today is the annual duel between Mu Qingxue and Leng Liusu. These girls are all here to see Mu Qingxue." This was not the first time Xiao Chen had heard of Mu Qingxue. When he heard this name again, it could not help but pique Xiao Chen's interest. So, he asked the guard about it. The guard was very talkative. When he saw Xiao Chen ask about it, he spoke eloquently. Mu Qingxue came from the Night Spirit Palace of the Southern Ridge. He was the young palace lord of the Night Spirit Palace. Together with Ji Changkong, they were known as the twin stars of the Southern Ridge. Xiao Chen's talent was very high, and he became famous at a young age. At the age of 12, aside from Ji Changkong, no one in the same generation could match him. That year, the two of them left the southern mountains at the same time and started to challenge young experts from all over the world. Ji Changkong went to the imperial capital, while Mu Qingxue went to Shihe and Dongming provinces. Among those of the same generation, the two of them were practically invincible. No one was a match for them. However, both of them had been defeated by a woman. Ji Changkong lost to Princess Yingyu. Mu Qingxue lost to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's little Heavenly Saber, Leng Liusu. 1 year later, Mu Qingxue came to Nanling province again and fought Leng Liusu. After the two of them exchanged more than 1,000 moves, they ended up in a draw. They agreed to fight again the next year. Just like that, it became a tradition. Every year, Mu Qingxue would come to Yunyang City to duel with Leng Liusu at this time. Aside from Mu Qingxue's outstanding talent, he was also very handsome. After a while, all the girls in Yunyang City came to know of him. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and gave his thanks. Then, he entered Yunyang City. Regardless of which world it was, the girls all seemed to have the potential to chase after their idols. Leng Liusu, could it be her? A beautiful figure appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. After a while, the more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Xiao Chen could not help but feel a headache. The purpose of his trip was the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. In the end, before he even reached the mountain, he offended the most beloved daughter of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master. Mu Qingxue is here. As Xiao Chen walked, a clamorous cheer came from behind him. Xiao Chen turned around and saw a white-clothed man holding a sword. He was surrounded by girls. There was a faint smile on his handsome face as he dealt with them one by one. Xiao Chen could not help but feel slightly astonished. This Mu Qingxue was actually the person he asked for directions from earlier. He could not help but smile faintly. This world is really strange. After Xiao Chen spoke, he turned around and left. The instant he turned around, he felt a strong gaze staring at him. This time, there was no attempt to hide it. The source of that gaze was Mu Qingxue. Xiao Chen resisted the urge to turn his head back. After he asked around where Yunyang City's Liushan Pavilion was, he quickly left. Among the crowd, Mu Qingxue, who was surrounded by girls, watched as Xiao Chen left. The corner of his mouth curled up into a faint smile. In Xiao Chen's left eye, a purple copper mirror floated in the boundless void. The light that the mirror gave off seemed to be able to see through the source of the entire world. That copper mirror flashed in his eye for a moment. No one noticed it. After asking around, Liushang Pavilion did indeed have a branch in Yunyang City. Xiaochen took out a brick VIP card that Fatso gave him before he left. He could not help but sigh. This Fatso was indeed not bragging. No matter where you go, there is a Liushang Pavilion. The Liushang Pavilion in Yunyang City was the same as in Whitewater City. Business was booming. The basics were the same as well. Xiaochen leaped over the first floor and headed for the second floor. A group of cultivators were discussing the duel that was going to take place today. Last year, the two of them fought to a draw. This is the third time they fought to a draw. In the end, Mu Qingxue still lost once. He could not defeat the top expert of our Shiha province. That might not be the case. The previous few times, Ling Liusu had the advantage of a weapon. This time, I heard that Mu Qingxue completed the Heavenly Gate test in the Night Spirit Palace and obtained a damaged holy weapon. I know that. That is a holy sword called Beauty Under the Moonlight. Some time ago, Mu Qingxue tested the sword and personally killed a martial saint. From the looks of it, Beauty Under the Moonlight is not much weaker than Ling Liusu's flame soul. They are both half-sages. This is going to be interesting. There were a few cultivators who were very insightful on the first floor. When they spoke, Xiaochen could not help but stop and listen carefully. Make way, make way. Our young master Yen is here. Why are you not making way? Just at this moment, Yan Xianyun led a few servants up the first floor. The people on both sides moved aside. When Xiaochen saw Yan Xianyun, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. He did not expect to see him here. Xiaochen thought of a legend about Fatso. He looked at his crotch and could not help but smile. Xiaochen did not want to cause trouble. When Yan Xianyun walked past him, he moved aside and made way for him. Yan Xianyun brought his men and walked past Xiaochen. He hurriedly glanced at Xiaochen and took 2 steps before turning back. Why do I find you somewhat familiar? Have we met before? Yan Xianyun asked carefully as he stared into Xiaochen's eyes. Xiaochen was not worried. Aside from changing one's appearance, the shape-shifting spell could also change a person's aura and voice. He smiled and said, maybe I met you once in the crowd. It is not strange to find you familiar. Yan Xianyun smiled faintly and thought for a while before saying, that's true. Maybe we met once, or maybe I recognized the wrong person. Goodbye. Boom. Yan Xianyun, who had not taken a step forward, suddenly turned around and kicked at Xiaochen's chest. Xiaochen revealed a cold smile and did not resist. His abdomen shrank slightly. Bang! The might of Yan Xianyun's kick was very strong. It sent Xiaochen flying. However, because Xiaochen was prepared, he only suffered some superficial wounds. Chapter 136. Yan Xianyun frowned slightly, feeling it was strange. After a while, he tossed out a banknote and said, I'm sorry, I think I might have recognized the wrong person. After Yan Xianyun left for a long time, the second floor became noisy again. A kind-hearted cultivator helped Xiaochen up and said, little brother, are you all right? Xiaochen picked up the banknote and smiled faintly, I'm fine. I was beaten up for no reason. However, I picked up a banknote worth 1,000 silver taels, so it's fine. On the third floor, in front of a hidden window, Yan Xianyun looked at Xiaochen's expression after he got up. He said doubtfully, could I have seen wrong? However, I clearly did not see wrongly from his gaze earlier. He observed for a long time but in the end, he could not find anything wrong. He shook his head, unable to figure it out. He said to the people beside him, there is something wrong with that brat. You guys go out and take a look. Young Master Lang and I still have matters to attend to, so we will take our leave first. Xiaochen's spiritual sense had been following behind Yan Xianyun. When he withdrew his spiritual sense, he could not help but sigh in his heart. It looks like this fellow suffered a huge blow the last time. He is already in such a state, yet he can still recognize me. Not long after, all the cultivators on the second floor left. Xiao Chen knew that the duel between Leng Liusu and Mu Qingxue was about to begin. This group of people had been looking forward to it for a year. There was no reason for them to not go and watch. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to leave. He did not want to participate in the duel between Mu Qingxue and Leng Liusu. Mu Qingxue gave him a very dangerous feeling. That feeling was only felt when he faced Chu Chaoyun. As for Leng Liusu, there was no need to even mention it. After eating, Xiao Chen casually glanced at the third floor. He revealed a mocking smile and called the waiter over. He prepared to pay the bill and leave. On the third floor, a few of Yan Qinyun's attendants were watching Xiao Chen carefully. When the waiter went over to collect the money, he happened to block Xiao Chen's figure. After he collected the money, cleaned up the leftover food on the table and left, they strangely discovered that Xiao Chen had disappeared. Where is he? Where did he go? I clearly saw him there just now. Why did I not see the waiter after he went over? Seeing Xiao Chen disappear right before their eyes, they turned pale with fright and hurriedly ran down. One of them grabbed the waiter's clothes and shouted, "Where is he? Where did that person go?" The waiter rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, after eating and paying, "Of course he's leaving. I'm asking how you left." The waiter pushed his hand away and said snappily, "I'll only say it once. Leave with your feet. Don't disturb me again." "Thank you." The waiter's attitude made the man anxious. He wanted to make a move on the spot. A few people quickly stopped him and explained the background of Liushang Pavilion to him. The few of them looked around, but they could not find any traces of Xiao Chen. They all thought that Xiao Chen had already left Liushang Pavilion. Thinking of Yan Qinyun's instructions, they quickly gave chase. Using the shape-shifting spell, Xiao Chen shrunk his body and stuck it to the bottom of the dining table. Seeing the four of them go far away, Xiao Chen jumped out. His body gave off a crackling sound as he returned to his normal height. He extended out his spiritual sense and discovered that Yan Qinyun was on the fifth floor with a black-clothed man. That black-clothed man was extremely strong. His aura was much stronger than Yan Qinyun's. He was like an unsheathed treasured saber. Xiao Chen did not dare to get too close with his spiritual sense. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen headed directly to the fourth floor. He flashed the VIP card that Fatso gave him. His path was unimpeded. What made Xiao Chen slightly astonished was that there was no one on the third and fourth floors. It looked like the duel between Leng Liusu and Mu Qingxue was very attractive. Xiao Chen arrived at the staircase between the fourth and fifth floor. This was the only way from the fifth floor to the fourth floor. He looked carefully and took out 2 grade 3 talismans from his universe ring. After that, he sprinkled some spirit beast saliva on them. This kind of saliva was very sticky. Once it came in contact with it, it would be impossible to tear it off. After doing all this, Xiao Chen found a booth on the fourth floor and sat down. "Brother Leng, is this matter really reliable? Does Leng Liusu really only have 2 martial saints by her side?" Yan Qinyun asked solemnly as he looked at the person opposite him from the 5th floor. Xiao Chen frowned. What is he trying to do? Could it be that Yan Qinyun wants to make a move on Leng Liusu? With a thought, Xiao Chen could not help but focus his spiritual sense. The black-clothed man opposite him had a grave and stern expression as he said, "Leng Tianyue, have prepared for many years just for this day. Do you think there will be any accidents?" Yan Qinyun laughed dryly. "This matter is very important. I have to get to the bottom of this. However, let me say this first. I am only responsible for sending people to lure away the 2 martial saints. You can handle the rest yourself." Leng Tianyue's stern face did not reveal any expression. He said indifferently, "You just need to lure away the 2 of them. You don't have to care about anything else. I have already told your father about the benefits after this is done." The 2 of them chatted for a long time before a messenger pigeon flew into Leng Tianyue's hands. He removed the note on the pigeon's leg and smiled after a while. "It is actually a draw again. I suddenly understand Mu Qingxue's motive. Let's go, Brother Yan, it is time for us to make our move. The two of them got up and walked down the stairs. The instant they went down, they each stepped on a talisman. The talisman was as light as a feather and stuck to the bottom of their shoes. They did not feel anything at all. Seeing the two of them leave, Xiaochen smiled faintly and slowly stood up. His spiritual sense turned into a strand of silk, entangling the two of them. Should I get involved in this mess? Xiaochen said with some apprehension in his heart. This person with the surname Lang was obviously someone from within the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The fight in front of him was a fight for the inheritance of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Every strong power had countless factions. Xiaochen did not find this strange. Even if he saw it, he would not care. However, if Lang Liusu was the girl from earlier, it would be inexcusable if he did not help her. In the end, Xiaochen made up his mind, if she is really that girl, it would be good to repay this favor. Xiaochen followed the two of them from a distance. Due to the aid of his spiritual sense, Xiaochen could easily follow the two of them. After a while, he followed them out of the east gate. The further they went, the more they deviated. Eventually, they could not see anyone on the main road. Xiaochen felt that something was wrong. After hesitating for a while, he decided to follow them. After taking a few steps forward, he discovered Leng Tianyue and Yan Qianyun looking at him with a smile on their faces. Leng Tianyue slowly walked over. There was no expression on his grave and stern face. He said coldly, "Who sent you?" Yan Qianyun, who was at the side, smiled, "Brother Leng, leave this person to me. He is here for me. You just need to take the token and inform them." Leng Tianyue glanced at Xiaochen. When he saw that he was only a superior grade martial master, he relaxed. As a medial grade martial grand master, Yan Qianyun should be able to kill this person easily. Let's meet up soon after we are done. After Leng Tianyue left, Yan Qianyun slowly walked over to Xiaochen. He smiled coldly, "Xiaochen, I did not expect to meet you here. I have waited for this day for a long time. How do you want to die?" Xiaochen muttered to himself for a while before saying, "I have a question. How did you recognize me? I felt that I had hidden myself very well. How did you discover me?" Yan Qianyun faced the sky and laughed loudly. He said, "I will never forget the look you gave me that day. Before you die, I will let you understand. Leng Tianyue has a secret treasure on him. When you walked out of Liushang Pavilion, he already discovered you." Xiaochen nodded. "So that's how it is. I wonder what kind of secret treasure it is to be able to discover me from so far away." However, this was no longer important. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said gently to Yan Qianyun, "Many thanks for your explanation. You can die now." Yan Qianyun snorted coldly. He felt that it was funny and said, "Do you really think you are a match for me?" I explode. Before Yan Qianyun could finish speaking, Xiaochen formed a hand seal and the rank 3 fire cloud talisman under Yan Qianyun's feet exploded. A flame carrying a surging shockwave spread out in all directions. The huge might blasted Yan Qianyun into the sky. Being struck by a rank 3 offensive talisman was equivalent to the full-powered strike of a peak martial grand master. Yan Qianyun was caught off guard and immediately lost all his combat prowess. Using drawing the saber, Xiaochen leaped into the air. There was a flash of saber light and a swarthy black head separated from the charred body. After that, it fell to the ground with a bang. Xiaochen landed firmly on the ground and looked expressionlessly at Yan Qianyun's corpse. He took off the spatial ring in his hand and took out all the things inside with a huang dang sound. Tens of inferior grade spirit stones, some medicinal pills, and banknotes fell to the ground. An ancient book entered Xiaochen's eyes. Inherited martial technique, Dragon Seizing Hand. The so-called inherited martial technique could only be practiced by those who inherited the martial spirit. However, Xiaochen had the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. He could imitate it. He took a quick look and placed it into the universe ring. Closing his eyes, Xiaochen felt the talisman under Leng Tianyue's feet. That talisman had Xiao Chen's essence blood imprinted on it. Even from 1,000 kilometers away, he could still feel it clearly. A faint yellow dot appeared in his mind. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and summoned out the silver warship. He leaped onto it and flew off like a bolt of silver lightning. After a while, Xiao Chen arrived at where Leng Tianyue was. Because he was afraid of his secret treasure, Xiao Chen hid in a cloud and observed the situation on the ground. On the ground, Leng Tianyue wore a black veil as he stood there quietly. In front of him, there were 4 martial grand masters wearing the same veil surrounding Leng Liusu. In the cloud, Xiao Chen used his spiritual sense to sense the situation on the ground. After he looked carefully at the appearance of the girl, he finally confirmed that the person being surrounded was indeed the girl he met in the pool of water. If they want to kill a peak martial grand master with an inherited martial spirit, this lineup is not enough. Xiao Chen stood at the bow of the warship and said doubtfully, they need at least 2 martial saints to be absolutely safe. Chapter 137. Slowly, Xiao Chen figured out something. These 4 martial grand masters had a set of joint martial techniques. Every move was connected. Furthermore, they had practiced it for a long time. Their coordination was very good. Saber lights flickered and energy flew everywhere. Explosive shouts came from the battlefield. The slender saber in Leng Liusu's hand gave off a horrifying light. The wind howled and dust flew everywhere. Small cracks appeared on the ground. As the saber moved, there seemed to be a trace of the Tao, giving off the faint might of a sage. Leng Liusu's figure was surrounded by the 4. She dodged left and right, continuously using the sticky character technique. However, she was still unable to break out of their encirclement. However, she did not show any panic on her face. She swung her saber and the saber light paused, blocking the joint attack of the 4. Then, she looked at Leng Tianyue, who was standing at the side. A cold chi appeared on her pretty face as she said in a sullen voice, Leng Tianyue, do you really want to kill me that badly? Is the position of successor so attractive to you? Are you not afraid of your father punishing you after he finds out about all this? Leng Tianyue's expression could not be seen under the veil. He did not reply to Leng Liusu's question and said indifferently, trash. This is a joint martial technique that can easily take down a martial saint. It has been almost half an hour and you still have not taken her down. When the 4 heard Leng Tianyue's reprimand, they could not help but increase the strength in their hands. They launched even more ferocious attacks at Leng Liusu. Phoenix cry. Dragon roar. Tiger roar. Black tortoise. When the 4 saw that they could not take her down after a long time, they steeled their hearts and shouted. They leaped up from the ground. They executed the most ferocious move of their joint martial technique. 4 images materialized on their weapons: Divine Phoenix, Blue Dragon, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise. These ancient holy beasts appeared in the formation, as though they came to life. 4 images into one. Countless holy beast cries resounded. When the faint might of the holy beasts merged together, it felt like it was suffocating. Even the air seemed to have solidified under this might. Xiao Chen stood at the bow of the warship. He was mildly astonished. He looked carefully for a while and finally discovered that the martial spirits of these 4 people had a trace of the bloodline of holy beasts. Although it was very diluted, when released together, the power was still incomparably terrifying. He really did not know where Leng Tianyue found these 4 people. Looking at their coordination, they should have trained together since they were young. Leng Liusu frowned slightly. Her red dress fluttered in the strong wind. When she saw the 4 divine beasts merge into one, she did not show much fear. The wind howled, her hair danced in the wind, and her long dress flowed like waves. Together with her beautiful face and impressive figure, she stood straight on the ground like an ancient Valkyrie. Flame's soul, Saint's fury, flame dance. Leng Liusu held the saber in her right hand and slowly slid it across the palm of her left hand. Fresh blood flowed down the saber and dripped onto the ground. Under the summons of the fresh blood, the ancient sage within the sacred weapon seemed to come alive. As expected, it is a weapon used by a sage. What a formidable aura of righteousness! Xiao Chen, who was within the clouds, said in shock. Boom! The flames on the ground burned into the sky. There was a furious roar coming from the red flames. It was like it traveled through time and space, lasting for tens of thousands of years. Leng Liusu stood in the flames. The flickering light of the flames illuminated her flushed face. She leaped into the air and the saber carried boundless flames as it flew into the sky. Bang! It was like breaking a dead branch. With just one saber strike, the flames that carried the might of a sage instantly shattered. The four divine beasts merged into one. The divine phoenix shattered, the black tortoise fled, the blue dragon was chopped, and the white tiger was burned to a pile of ashes. Bang! 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 The four of them landed heavily on the ground. Their martial spirits had suffered a fatal blow. Their complexions were incomparably pale, and they would not be able to fight for a short period of time. Ka-Xie. Just at this moment, Leng Tianyue suddenly made his move. A cold light appeared, and with a flash of saber light, Leng Tianyue appeared beside Leng Liusu. This saber strike was extremely fast, and the timing was very accurate. It happened to be the moment when Leng Liusu was exhausted from the might of the sage. If Leng Liusu had a moment to recover, the chances of this saber strike injuring her would be much smaller. Even though Leng Liusu had already anticipated Leng Tianyue's attack, she was unable to dodge it. The saber slashed across, leaving a horrifying wound on Leng Liusu's chest. Blood spurted out wildly into the air. She frowned slightly and revealed a pained expression. She swung the saber in her hand forward ferociously. When the saber struck Leng Tianyue's body, it was like it was striking air. It was only an afterimage left in the air. Leng Tianyue's body had already flashed to her side. He snorted coldly and kicked Leng Liusu, sending her flying to the ground. The force of this kick was very strong. After Leng Liusu landed on the ground, she slid backward continuously. Her saber stabbed into the ground, creating a long ditch. Only then did her body slow down. Leng Tianyue did not say anything. He did not want to give Leng Liusu any chance. His figure flashed in the air as he landed on the ground and a resplendent saber light appeared on his saber. He chopped at Leng Liusu, who was on the ground. Leng Liusu barely managed to raise her saber to block. However, she could not block it at all. Her body flew back like a cannonball and landed heavily on the ground. Xiao Chen's expression changed. He did not expect the situation on the battlefield to change in such a short period of time. Originally, when he saw Leng Liusu deal with the four people, he did not need to make a move. Lightning descend. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and successfully stopped Leng Tianyue from advancing. Xiao Chen executed the changing character formula and imitated Ji Chankong's martial technique. He turned into a meteor and quickly descended to the ground. Leng Tianyue looked at the meteor in the sky and frowned. Nanling Ji clan's martial technique, Ji Chankong is here? That's not right, this is not a pure Ji clan martial technique. Trying to act mysterious, I'll show you your true colors. Leng Tianyue laughed coldly and leaped into the air, leaving behind a series of afterimages. Leng Tianyue's speed was at its peak. The saber lit up and chopped at Xiao Chen. Explode! Xiao Chen revealed himself and shouted. A fiery red firework soared into the sky. Before Leng Tianyue could understand what was going on, he was already blasted into pieces. His body was thrown high into the air by the shockwave. Purple thunder, true fire, shoot! Looking at Leng Tianyue in the air, Xiao Chen could feel that the rank 3 exploding talisman had completely struck him, but he did not suffer any fatal injuries. Xiao Chen could not help but tighten his heart. A purple flame revolved around his finger and shot towards Leng Tianyue. A layer of protective true qi appeared on Leng Tianyue's body. When the purple flame struck it, it gave off a loud explosion. The shockwave from the explosion threw his body even further into the sky. However, it could not do anything to him. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense pierced through the protective true qi and saw a jade pendant on Leng Tianyue's chest. It gave off a faint glow, this should be his secret treasure. The protective true qi should have come from this secret treasure. Xiaochen landed on the ground and looked at Leng Liusu, who had lost a lot of blood and was pale. She was so weak that she had fainted. After hesitating for a while, Xiaochen carried her on his shoulder and rushed forward. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and danced on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was already far away. After a long time, Leng Tianyue descended from the sky. His clothes were torn and the scarf on his black face was nowhere to be seen. He struggled to stand up and watched as Xiaochen carried Leng Liusu away. His eyes revealed a complicated expression as he muttered, "Man proposes, God disposes." He turned around and stabbed the 4 cultivators on the ground. After that, he walked expressionlessly in the direction of Yunyang City. His figure seemed very lonely. Xiaochen carried Leng Liusu and walked for a long time. When he arrived at a forest, he felt that there were no pursuers behind him. Only then did he stop. He slowly placed Leng Liusu on a big tree. When Xiaochen saw the horrifying wound on her chest, he was astonished. Leng Tianyue's attack was very ruthless. Not only was it extremely fast, it was shockingly strong as well. The golden armor on Leng Liusu's chest was torn. At this moment, it was dyed red with blood. Blood continued to flow out of the wound. Xiaochen pressed on a few acupoints on Leng Liusu's chest and stopped the bleeding. After that, he slowly removed her outer clothes. In the end, he discovered that this was not very realistic. Leng Liusu was wearing a long red dress. The top and bottom were connected. If he wanted to remove it, he would have to remove the entire dress. Naturally, Xiaochen could not do something like removing everything. He could only take out a small knife and slowly cut open the cloth. As the clothes were slowly cut open, large patches of snow-white skin appeared before Xiaochen's eyes. It was a little dazzling. Xiaochen composed himself and carefully cleaned the wound. Some of the cloth was stuck to the wound. Xiaochen slowly removed it. The unconscious Leng Liusu groaned in pain. Xiaochen could not help but become gentler. After cleaning the wound, Xiaochen took out a blood-replenishing pill from the universe ring. After he crushed it, he slowly applied it on the wound. After that, he took out another blood-replenishing pill and fed it to her. After doing all this, Xiaochen slowly relaxed. Luckily, the wound did not injure her heart. However, the wound was rather deep. With the medicinal strength of the blood-replenishing pill, there should not be any problems after it was applied externally. Xiaochen took out a set of clean clothes from the universe ring and draped them over her body. Leng Liusu's pale face looked very weak. Xiaochen suddenly felt that this scene was somewhat familiar. Suddenly, he thought about the time he met Princess Yingyu in Gloomy Forest. She was also like this. No matter how strong a woman was, she would always have a gentle side. Xiaochen took out a bottle of qi returning pills and a bottle of blood replenishing pills. Then, he took out a slip of paper introducing the medicinal pills and placed it beside Leng Liusu. Xiaochen pushed off the ground and leaped onto a large tree at the side. Xiaochen sat down cross-legged and calmed himself down. He entered a state of cultivation and unleashed his aura. The surrounding wandering wild beasts did not dare to get close to him. Time passed quickly and night fell quickly. Although Xiaochen was immersed in a state of cultivation, he still left a strand of his spiritual sense beside Leng Liusu to monitor her condition. "Father, don't go.